CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. Derek Thord here for one of the last few times, along with
Jarza Arlong for the last few times. We're
Yeah.
getting close to picking new nicknames.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah,
Hopefully we find something that fits well.
I would say so. But how have you been, dude?
Good. Today, work went pretty fast today. I was looking forward to doing this because then we get to finish this book. And also I'm just kind of excited for this week because hockey starts on Wednesday for me. And then I'll be at an adult hockey camp all day Saturday, so that'll be fun.
That will be fun. Do you do adult things there?
It's put on by MSU, so we get to watch them practice, and then we'll get some ice time, and then we get to have lunch and stuff, and get to have some Q&A time and stuff like that. And
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's all day. It's 8 to 5.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. How about you?
Enjoyed my birthday week off. Didn't do fucking shit. Yeah. Just reading, summarizing, editing, drawing, just doing all the shit. Just doing all the stuff.
And now you're less than a year from the big 4-0.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm 20. I'm 25.
Maybe at heart.
I'm gonna go a little lower than that.
Yeah, I'll catch up to you in about 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, should we list off our patrons here?
Let's do it.
All right. We've got Ryan. God damn it. I'm reading the top and the bottom at the same time. It was weird. We've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Etrigan, Ryan the Topological, Damien Facing the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, My Own Genesis, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, Tony the Watch, Steve Bottle Kegs, and The Mortal Sam.
We got a pretty well-rounded out group here.
Yeah, we have 20 in all. 20 chain of dogs. I think we should close the Patreon and this be it.
Yeah?
No.
I wasn't sure if you're serious.
I'm just goofy. No, not at all. But seriously, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, guys, it's always a lot of fun. I was just chatting it up in the group chat, which has been a little goofy because it keeps disappearing, but seem to have found a way around that.
Nice.
But it's a lot of fun talking to everybody about this or that, and it's just a good time. So we appreciate you guys making things better.
Was Jan able to listen to the episode while he did his gardening? I tried to make sure that it got up there relatively quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I imagine I didn't see that message till later in the day, so I think it was basically Sunday by the time he got to
Jan,
it,
I'm
so.
sorry that you had to garden without the latest episode. It's up there now, even though by the time you hear this, you'll definitely have heard it.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure he already listened to it because he commented on it.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, what should we say? Should we read off this epigraph?
Yeah, this epigraph reminded me a lot of Dead House Gates. I don't know if you felt that way.
It definitely did. It gave me that vibe for sure.
Gotcha. Well, here it goes. Hear them rattle, the chains of the living, bound to every moment past, until the wreckage clamors in deafening wake, and each stride trails a dirge of the lost. House of Chains, Fisher Keltath.
Nice.
That's all I got. Yeah, it reminds me of that one epigraph talking about Coltane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hear them rattle or whatever. So
It'll be interesting to reread Dead House Gates and just to see how much foreshadowing there is to this book.
I feel like by the time we get to a position where we can reread, it's going to be like the first time again because I'm probably not going to remember a lot of it.
You'd be
You know,
surprised as
I
to
mean,
how
I'll
much you would
remember a lot of
remember.
like the big things, sure, but some stuff I'll probably forget quite a bit.
Maybe. Who knows? Well, we ready for the first section of what, 23 total, I think?
20. Is it 23?
I think it was 23.
23 is my lucky number.
Ooh. It is
But
my
you
birthday
did, yeah.
month.
It is. You did start and end this one, so it has to be an odd number. And I don't
Yeah.
think it was 25, so you must be right.
I think it's 23. All right. Well, anyway, the first, I think, 7 sections are fairly short. So I would imagine we'll fly through those. And then we've got some longer ones.
Yeah, a couple sprinkled here and there.
Yeah, I'm really going to be curious as to how long this episode actually goes because I feel like it's a lot of short sections, and then the longer ones are more action packed. So I don't remember having a ton of thoughts for those. It would be interesting if 23 sections takes us like an hour and 45 minutes. I would be very surprised.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be over 2 hours.
Yeah.
We usually are.
Yeah. All right.
Well, take it away, sir.
Section 1. He sat cross-legged in the darkness, perched at his usual place on the easternmost ridge. His eyes were closed, and he had a small smile on his withered face. He had unveiled his warren in a subtle web across the oasis. He knew that it would be soon torn, but for the moment he could sense every footfall. The powers were indeed converging and promised a night of blood. Febril was pleased. Sha'ik was isolated, and the Napan's killers were now emerging from their hiding places as panic closed around Corbolo Dom's throat. Rouleau was returning from his temporary stay through the Warrens. Across the basin, Malazans were camping, and the adjunct was sharpening her Otateril sword for tomorrow's battle. There was one troubling detail, a strange song, faint but growing louder, the voice of Raraku. He wondered what it would bring to this night. Hood was close, yes, the god himself, and this did much to mask the other presences. The sands were stirring, perhaps by the Lord of Death's arrival. Spirits and ghosts, no doubt come to witness the many deaths promised in the hours to come. It was curious, but not a concern of his. He thought to himself that there will be a slaughter. Yet another apocalypse on Raraku's restless sands. It is as it should be. My first thought is the panic closing around Corbolo Dom's throat is none other than the conversation in the previous chapter about Lorik telling him Sha'ik's command, right? So like that to me kind of seems like it's the push that Corbolo Dom needed to act, almost.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. The other thought that I had is Rouleau was returning from his temporary stay through the Warrens, because if you remember, he and Febril in chapter 21, at the beginning, were talking about the whirlwind. Febril opened a path into Talan, and Rouleau was looking into something about the First Empire, as the path he was sent on hadn't been walked by mortals in a long time. So I'm wondering if Rouleau went to go dig up some dirt on how to thwart the goddess. Kind of seems to be what's going on.
I don't know that I have anything to add to that because I didn't know where he was going. I mean, maybe we weren't supposed to know, but I was wondering where he went. Or I don't remember where he went.
I think I bring this up in a later section, but it's not really like that big of a deal. What is it that Febrile actually wants to do?
I don't know. Not die, I guess.
I mean, yeah, but like, what is his plan? I mean, obviously he's figured out everything else, but I don't know. We'll talk about it later. I have another thought that I don't want to quite reveal, but
Sure.
and then my last thought is the Lord of Death's arrival. If Raraku is filled with spirits, does that mean that they haven't passed through Hood's Gate? Is he there to collect?
I don't know because I feel like we saw this in other places, right? In Deadhouse Gates. Like when they were coming. I guess maybe now he could be coming to collect.
I don't remember. I know that, yeah.
Because was it after the Sakala crossing where I don't remember who it was, but they went out ahead a little bit and they could feel spirits and stuff somewhere along the way, I thought.
I don't remember. I mean, yeah, I feel like that's the canon is that there are spirits, but are these like spirits that haven't passed through Hood's Gate, or are these like violent deaths, or something? I don't even know how to explain it. Like, has the soul gone through spirits or Hood's Gate? I don't know. The semantics of like who is dead and who is alive is weird to me. So my canon is Raraku is holding the soul. They are the wallet of that particular souls.
Okay. Let me just pull out a 20 real quick. 20 souls. You got change?
Exactly. But yeah, those are the only three thoughts that I had about that section.
All right. Yeah, starting off quick, fast and furious here. So it will be the same. It looked as if Lorik was dead, drugged to a wall in the command tent and left. The knife pulled from his back and his eyes were open, staring at the wall behind him while the supreme commander of the apocalypse was talking. He told Henaris to unleash them all except his bodyguards. He wanted all of Bidethal's spies hunted down and killed, and to find Skillara. That bitch has played her last game. He told Durley to take another and ride for the adjunct to deliver his message and make sure he isn't seen by anyone. Mathok's warriors were out. Fael will use sorcery to help him. He needs to convince the adjunct to withdraw her killers so they don't do the whirlwind's work for her. A voice asked about Leoman. Dom said the Fourth Company and Fael are to leave within the next hour. Leoman would not get close to them or the army, and he wanted Corporal Ithum within the crossbow range of Febrile. He's hiding in his normal place. SDT, which would be Supreme Douche Twat Waffle, Corbolo Dom, asked if he missed anything. Henaris said their fear grew. Something is happening in this holy desert and feels the approach of terrible powers. Dom said that's why they needed the adjunct and her sword. He asked if they were safe enough here. Henaris thought so. The words between herself, Rillo, and Febrile should be enough to confound a god. Dom said that claim could very well be put to the test. He said something else, but the Nappin's voice was drowned out by a gurgling sound. Talons ripped through the fabric of the wall, and Greyfrog stepped through and said Lorik looked unwell. Lorik said appearances deceive. For example, Greyfrog had never looked prettier. Greyfrog grabbed Lorik by the arm and dragged him away, saying the other occupants were distracted and that he was disappointed. He had only eaten 2 guards. And the wards sleep, and their path of escape is clear, but things are coming, and he is a little scared. He thinks they should hide. Lorik agreed and said when he finds a hiding place to leave him there, and that Greyfrog needs to go back and find Felison. Assassins are out hunting. Greyfrog thought that was delightful. Just had to give you a little callback there to your nickname for Dom, so I like that.
Yeah, isn't it? But wouldn't it be SDTW? Because twat and waffle are 2 different words.
Okay, well, sure. I was too lazy to type out a 4th letter, apparently.
It's all good. It works.
I'm glad it works, because I thought it was funny. Hinara said her fear grew. was growing. Something is happening in the Holy Desert. It feels the approach of terrible powers. I suppose it could also be the hounds, but I was kind of, at the time, I was wondering if maybe she could sense Karsa coming or something.
I mean, maybe. I think, as you said before, I think it's a mixture of everybody. It's the hounds, it's everybody who's, who we see in this chapter.
Sure. Yeah. Reading this, it was a little confusing, but where Don was saying that, those words could be put to the test, and he said something else, but the voice was drowned out by a gurgling sound as the talons ripped through the fabric of the wall. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me as how that was written, how they didn't notice Gray Frog coming through the tent. That was a little confusing to me. And I think I summarized that pretty well. I guess I'd have to go back to the book and look to see for certain. But aside from that, I didn't really catch that, like, Lorik was basically spying on that conversation. Even, it says he appears dead, but he must not have been, like, visible to everybody. He must have been, like, in another room, basically, or something, where he could hear what they were saying, but they couldn't see him. And they just, thought he was on death's door or something. I don't know.
From what I just imagined that Gray Frog just ripped a hole in the tent and pulled him through. I didn't think that he actually came in the tent.
Well, they still talked for a moment, but
yeah, but inside their heads, it's not like Dom would hear them talking.
True, good point. But just like even like the fabric ripping, like that was, I think that's what kind of like threw me off, because it felt like, well, the way it was written to me made it sound like he should have heard that.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess I don't have any particular thoughts on that, because
I obviously you didn't hear it because they didn't, like, hey, what are you doing?
Right. But there's so much more that it could have been. There's so much commotion going on in this moment, right? Like, he's bellowing orders, right? He's having conversations, and that tearing sound is more closer to Lorik than it would be Dom.
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of stuff going on. So to me, it just seemed weird. That's all.
Fair enough.
Gray Frog says he'd only eaten 2 guards, and all I could think of, you remember that one monster in the Power Rangers that would like ate some of the Power Rangers or whatever? I'm going way back here. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if it ate the Power Rangers or somebody else, or if it ate a couple of them, but then they had to like fight it and it like puked them back up or something.
I think so. I don't remember. I feel like I remember that concept, but I can't visualize it. You might have to send me a picture.
Oh man, I'll see if I can dig one up. But maybe I'm not even remembering that right. I don't know.
It's possible. I remember, in the OG Power Rangers, there was some type of frog type creature that would eat them.
Let me look this up right now. Oh, it was the Terror Toad, oddly enough.
Oh!
Yeah.
Should we ask if that's where you got inspiration for writing this toad? This Gray Frog?
I don't know if this is gonna...
Yeah, it's fine. I'll just... You said it was Terror Toad?
Yeah, I'll send. I just screenshot it. I'll send it to you right now.
I'm looking it up online. Oh my god, yeah, Terror Toad.
I never would have remembered the name, but...
Yeah, that could totally be Gray Frog.
That was all I had for my first section.
Now that we've given an image to our audience of what we imagine Gray Frog to be, this is going to hopefully start something beautiful.
I don't know what that's going to be, but...
That's the surprise. Section 3. I'm not sure how to say this guy's name because the word anal is in it, but I'm just gonna say Casanol had
That's
been
what I
a
would have
Semp
guessed. Cass Anal. Well, you ruined that name for me.
Sorry. All right. Casanol had been a Semp shaman once, but now he murdered at his new master's bidding. He enjoyed it, but he would rather it were Malazans and not natives to 7 cities. At least, though, his victims would not be Semp. Corboladam had more or less adopted the last survivors of the clans that had fought alongside him and Rouleau on the chain of dogs. The two women he watched at the edge of the stone glade were servants of that butcher Bidethal. One was Scalara, who Casanal knew his master would be pleased with when he returned with her severed head. The other one he recognized as Felsen Younger. He had seen her in the company of Sha'ik and Leoman. It was clear to him that they were hiding, and so likely to be principal agents in whatever Bidethal was planning. He slowly raised his hand and made two quick gestures to send his four followers out along the flanks to encircle the two women. Under his breath, he began muttering an incantation that would deaden sounds, force a withdrawal of energy, and dulling their senses. He smiled as he saw both their heads settle in unison. Casanal rose from his hiding place, and the need to do so had passed. He stepped into the glade, his four kin followed. They drew their knives and edged closer. Casanal never saw the huge blade sever him in half. He had a momentary sense of falling in two different directions. Then, oblivion. He heard the cries of his four kin as the wielder of the massive stone sword moved within their midst. When Casanal opened his ethereal eyes to find himself striding towards Hood's gate, he was pleased to find his four kinsmen with him. So the first thought that I had is, it's funny how it never occurred to me before, but look at what happens later. They essentially rise to get revenge against the dog slayers. And that's pretty fucking cool. All because they're chained to Raraku.
You might need to explain further for me.
Oh. It's just funny to me that I don't know why I put it here, but we'll talk about it later. Just what a fucking cool way to reintroduce Karza. End of last chapter, he's walking into the stone glade. 2 sections into this chapter, we get people about ready to take out Felsen Younger and Scalara. And then just in the middle of their POV, they're fucking cut in half. And the end of the section, they're walking through Hood's Gate. Like
Karsa going on a killing spree here.
Mm-hmm. This is just the first of many. And oh my god, like fucking badass. Fucking badass.
I know you didn't play Halo, but I just think of like multiplayer. When you'd string some kills together, you'd get like a running riot in the Halo dude's voice, and Killtacular or Killtastic, and I don't even remember what the other ones were. But
spree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's all I could think of.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but yeah, those are my only thoughts for that short section there.
All right. Karsa wiped the blood from his sword as he faced the two women. He turned to Felsen and said the scars upon her soul burned bright and that Bidethal had chosen to ignore his warnings. Karsa wanted to know where he was. Felsen had not completely lost the effects of the unknown sorcery, and all she was able to do was shake her head. Karsa looked to the other woman and asked if the knight had stolen her ability to speak. She said no, but thought they had been under some attack, some form of magic. They are recovering. Also, he had been gone a long time. Karsa said now he was back. He wanted to know where Leoman, Bidethal, Fevril, Dom, Rouleau, and Heberic were. Scalara said it was an impressive list and sounded as if he had a busy night, and to find them where he would. The night awaits him. Felsen was able to draw breath as she wrapped her arms around herself. Toblakai had taken 5 warriors out with 5 horrible swings of his blade. The ease with what he had done horrified her, even though the assassins intended to do the same for her and Scalara. Karsa shrugged and set off towards the city. In moments, he was gone. Scalara told Felsen death was always a shock, but the numbness would soon wear off. Felsen told her that all the names Karsa gave, he would kill, all but for Leoman. Scalara looked and faced the trail with a cool look on her face. What did I have here? I didn't have any thoughts, I guess. Anything you really want to talk about there or no?
I don't have anything. It's really short, and it's just kind of bringing I don't even know what it's doing outside of just Karza, or hey, Felsen, Karza's back. I see Bidethal didn't listen to my warning, so like, where is he?
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of reintroducing something.
Just kind of a set piece to where Carson's off to next, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess we can move on to the next section then.
I would say so.
All right. The last two had taken down 4 warriors and come close to the tent before finally falling. Scowling, Mathok stared down at the arrow-studded, sword-slashed corpses. There had been 6 attempted assassinations this night. The first bell had yet to sound. He thought to himself that enough was enough. He instructs a warrior named Tomorrow to gather his clan. The warrior grunted and walked off. Mathok drew his furs tighter around himself and returned to his tent. He paused for a moment as he was deep in thought. He then shook himself and walked over to a hide-covered chest near his cot. He crouched and opened the lid. The Book of Dryjana resided within. Sha'ik had given it to him for safekeeping. He closed the lid and locked the chest. With the chest in hand, he made his way back outside. He could hear his warriors breaking camp. He called for Tomorrow. The burly warrior regarded the war chief. Mathok explains that they would be riding to join up with Leoman of the Flails. The remaining clans would stay and guard Sha'ik, though he's confident that she's not at risk, but may have need for them come the morning. Tomorrow looked at the war chief in surprise and asked if they were to ride to Leoman and at this battle. Mathok explains that they need to protect the book, and an early next exit is a necessity. Come the dawn, they hover on the very cusp. Tomorrow suspects that they would gauge the wind. Mathok confirmed this. Tomorrow nodded and said that the horses were being saddled, but he will hasten the preparations. So I had a few comments. The first one is that that opening scene is a little jarring, but I think it's meant to be that 2 were attacked. There were 2 attackers, and they took down 4 of Mathok's warriors before finally being killed. That's kind of what it made it seem like, because there had been 6 attempted assassinations this night. This would be the last assassination attempt, maybe. It was just the way it was worded. I'm like, okay, who's attacking who? But
Right. Well, I don't know. It says the last 2 had taken 4 warriors down, so there could have been more than 2 that were killed earlier, and those last 2 just took out the 4. But still impressive either way.
Exactly. The other thing that I thought is so even though he's confident that Sha'ik is not at risk, but they may have a need for them come the morning. We didn't see Sha'ik at all this chapter, so I'm going to go with this is probably important to keep in mind.
I also thought it was interesting that we didn't really get Tavor either. It's interesting that we got little to nothing from both of those characters.
Right.
Which really makes me wonder about this last chapter, how it's going to wrap the book up, because we also didn't get anything from Tool in this chapter.
Tool.
Or, not Tool.
Onrak
and Troll. Yeah, that's what I meant. Troll, not Tool.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we're done recording, because that's the first thing I'm going to do.
Me too. All right, we ready to move on then?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let me situate myself again. Beberick listened to the silence, and only in his bones was he able to feel the sorcerous web that spanned the city and Oasis. He could feel the vibrations as some forces began to move across it, then, without care, tore through it. He got to his feet, though he was still feeling the effects of being force-healed. His fire had died, and the gloom, solid and reluctant to yield, as he made his way to the doorway, where he bared his teeth and his talon hand twitched. Ghosts stalked the city, and even gods felt close. Come to witness all that would take this place. Heberick thought to himself, witness. Or seize the moment and act directly. A nudge here or there, if only to appease their egos, if only to see what happens. These were the games he hated, the source of his deepest defiance all those years ago, the shape of his crime, if it was indeed a crime. and so they took his hands, at least until another god gave them back. He was indifferent to Treach, a reluctant destriant to a new god of war despite the gifts. What he desired had not changed. The Otadral Island and the Giant of Jade, that is what awaits him. The returning of power. Even as he thought those last words, he knew there was deceit among them, a secret that he knew he could not shape. Not yet, anyways, but perhaps once he found himself standing before that giant spire. For now, he had a more pressing issue, making sure he made it out of this camp alive. He hesitated at the doorway another moment as he reached into the darkness with his senses. With the path clear, at least for 20 paces or so, he darted into the darkness. A couple thoughts here. My first one, we get this line about gods maybe taking a moment to act directly. It says a nudge here or there, if only to appease their egos or to see what happens. And all I could think was just, it's like a kid with a magnifying glass and an ant farm. What kind of chaos can you create?
Just because they can. Yep.
Exactly.
Right. I imagine that what he's referring to here is that on top of a god playing with a bunch of ants, seeing what kind of chaos they can create, there's other gods with popcorn on the hills surrounding, watching. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just it's a show, man.
Yeah, spectator sport.
Heberick thinking about his crime, and I don't remember if we explicitly found out what he did, or if I'm just not remembering what exactly it was.
I feel like it had something to do with him being like defiant or questioning. It was there very briefly.
What chapter are you going back to?
The same one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so these were the games he despised. Source of his fiercest defiance all those years ago. The shape of his crime, if crime it was. So
yeah, but I don't really understand what the crime was. Defiant to what? And that's
the
what I'm not
games,
remembering.
Fenner's games, his gambits, his manipulations, his whatever. That's his crime.
It's not a very solid answer for me. So I'm assuming we're going to learn more then going forward.
I would imagine, but that would be. It kind of takes away. It makes us question how did he actually lose his hands? And from what I'm saying or seeing here, is that he hated the games of the gods. Because he probably saw them frugal or not frugal, but like pointless almost.
Well, I'll take it for now, and we'll see. We'll see what happens, or if somebody reminds us. But I don't know why I was thinking, because he wasn't in Memories of Ice. I wonder if I was maybe mixing him up with Gruntle or something in my head. I don't know. Then we get mention of the Otadral Island and the Giant of Jade again. And, there's always so much happening in these books. To me, it feels like sometimes this whole sequence or aspect of the story gets kind of pushed to the side a little bit. But I feel like it's probably the biggest mystery we have so far or right now. And it's just such a bizarre thing. And like, I just want to keep finding out more. And so I'm eager to find out what that's all about.
Right. And I don't know. I guess I felt a little bummed when I read this because like I was so looking forward to seeing those answers or getting those answers,
And we kind of got, we got that scene with them flinging around in space, which was kind of cool, but it's almost more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But that was all I had for that section.
Fair enough. I'm ready to move on if you are. We're hitting our first long section here.
Yeah, take it away, man.
All right. Rolling the acorn in his hands one last time, he tucked it into his sash and then emerged from a crack. He said out loud, "Oh, Hood's heartless hands." The song was a distant tremble in his bones, and he didn't like it. Worse though, there were powers awakened in the Oasis ahead, so strong that he, a non-practitioner of sorcery, could feel it like a fire in his blood. Kalam rechecked his weapons and then put them away. He was tempted to leave the Otatero blade out, to deny any magic sent his way. He thought to himself that it goes both ways, though. He studied the way ahead, recalling what he had observed a while he was hiding, and he set forth. He could see the angular lines of buildings ahead. Off to his right was the stone glade forest. He had thought about making his approach through it, but decided against it as something was unwelcoming about it, and suspected that it wasn't as empty as it appeared. He approached a well-walked path, and ahead he caught a flash of movement darting across the path. Kalam dropped lower and froze. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. He wondered who in this camp would organize assassins into hands. He waited a bit before resuming and following in their wake. He saw them moving as would claw assassins. He wondered if this is what Cotillion had sent him here to confirm, as these were most definitely talons. Kalam came within sight of the last most trailing assassin. Based on the magically invested items the assassin was carrying, making his form blurry, Kalam figured that they were hunting. Kalam moved swiftly and snapped the killer's neck. 200 heartbeats later, there were but 2 remaining. The route had taken them to a district of ruined temples. The 2 assassins stopped, likely to await their comrades. Kalam approached as if he were the 3rd assassin in line. Neither was paying attention, and Kalam raised his 2 knives and thrust them into the backs of both assassins. The blow to the leader of the hand was instantly fatal, but the other plunging of his long knife was not. He crouched down beside the dying man and said that if his leaders were listening, then he would be seeing them soon. Compliments of the claw. He assumed the hunter's target was within the ruined building they had been watching. He set out alongside the edge of the concourse. At the mouth of another alley, he found the corpses of 3 young girls. It appeared that they had fought hard. Kalam saw 2 blood trails leading in the direction of the temple. Kalam followed them until he was certain they led through the ruined structure's doorway. The reek of sorcery wafted from the entrance. There was no sound from within, and just inside the door was a body. The way the body was contorted suggested that he had died of sorcery. Shadows were flowing in the darkness, and Kalam drew his Ototero sword. The shadowy wraith flinched. 5 paces ahead, at the base of a ramp, a young girl sat amidst blood and guts of 3 more corpses. She looked up at Kalam and asked if he remembered the dark. He ignored her question and stepped by cautiously. He told her to stay put and she'd survive his visit. A thin voice chuckled from the gloom. Her mind is gone, Claw. There was no time to harden his subjects to the horror of life. The voice said that he is not Kalam's enemy. The one who seeks to kill him, Bidethal, is none other than the Malazan renegade Corbolo Dam and Kamastrolo. He asked Kalam if he would like directions to where the pair were hiding. Kalam said that he would eventually find it. Bidethal asked if Kalam found his Ototero blade sufficient, because the Claw understood the nature of this place, which the high priest thought that Kalam did, but he's afraid that Kalam might be wrong. He tells Silgar to offer Kalam some wine. Bidethal introduces himself and explains that Silgar is rather slow, but would eventually make it there. He explains that his awakening was long and torturous. He had figured out the details of the cult he would lead, but was unaware that he was being guided this whole time. Even when the new house was laid before him, he did not realize that the shattered fragment of Corald Emerlane would not be something the desert god would keep. Nobody shall have it, as it's to be the heart of the new house of chains. He tells Kalam to tell his empress to stand aside. They are indifferent to who rules the desert as far as he's concerned. Lucine can have it. Kalam asked about Sha'ik. Bidethal said, what the heck, you can have her too, and marched her back to Unta, as that would be far more poetic than Kalam realized. The shadow wraiths, torn from the fragment of Corald Emerlon, were drawing closer to the claw. Kalam realized that his Ototero blade may prove insufficient. Kalam said that what Bidethal proposed was interesting, but he guessed there were more lies than truth. Bidethal said that the claw was right, and he still had need of Sha'ik this night and tomorrow. He says that Dom and Febrile need to be taken out, and he's positive that the two of them could work together to achieve that. Dom calls himself the master of the Talons and would retreat back to the good graces of the scene. He'll use Sha'ik as a bargaining chip to do so. As for Febrile, what awaits him, only he would be mad enough to want. Kalam asked why Bidethal was saying all this, because he knew the High Priest wasn't going to let him leave. There was another thing. 2 beasts were approaching, hounds to be specific. He asked if Bidethal summoned them. He asked if the crippled god could really control the hounds of darkness. Bidethal leaned forward and hissed that the hounds seek a master. Inside his head, Kalam thought that Gotillion had been right about the crippled god. Kalam guessed that it meant one who was worthy, as in one who was meaner and tougher than the hounds. The claw said that out there they would find no such person, as he thinks they'll kill everyone. Bidethal said that Kalam knew nothing of this, nor even the power he now possesses. As far as letting the claw leave, it was true, as Kalam had revealed too much knowledge and couldn't let him leave here alive. Also, Kalam was far too indifferent to his proposals, which was unfortunate, but no longer mattered. He explains that his servants are everywhere, defending every approach to draw them in between Kalam and him. Silgar had finally arrived. Bidethal told Kalam to have some wine. Once Kalam was finished, though, the High Priest must make his exit. He's made a promise to Sha'ik, and he means to keep it. Should Kalam be by some miracle escape, now that he, Bidethal, will not get in the way of Kalam's efforts against Dom. Kalam told the High Priest to leave them, as he wasn't interested in wine. Bidethal said okay, and then swept himself into darkness as he was gone. At that moment, the race attacked. Both knives were drawn, and inhuman screams pierced the night. As it turned out, the Ototero weapon proved quite useful. That and the timely arrival of a god.
You want to go through your comments here or do that after?
So there's a fair amount. This whole part where he's talking about the Ototero blade to, keeping it out to deny any magic he was sent. And he thought to himself that it goes both way. And I'm not sure I really understand that fully because it relates to Ototero denying magic, but then says that it goes both ways. But what exactly is that other direction? Does it fire back? Does it absorb and can be used later? I don't know. It was weird.
I'm not sure either.
I don't think we've heard that before, right?
I don't think the only thing I can remember is just where they're talking about Otavral and Morinth munitions or whatever.
Right, where it gets hot and it's what it does when it gets hot.
Yeah.
All right, well, whatever. Okay. And then when Kalam was something felt unwelcoming about the stone forest, he suspected that it wasn't as empty as it appeared. Probably some good insight. Yes, because I don't know if Karza would have been. I think he would have killed Kalam too.
Yeah, he probably would have tried. Maybe Kalam would have been able to escape. I don't think he would have been able to fight back or defeat him, but he might have been able to get out of Dodge quick.
Yeah, but nobody's been able to escape Karza, except for Icarium. But that was because Mappo cronked him on the back of the skull. Like he does. 200 heartbeats later, there were 2 remaining. And this is kind of referring to the 5 assassins. We see him take out the first one, and then we don't see him take out the second 2, right? And I love how we get a sense of how Kalam took these other 2 down without ever having being told. Because you got that first one, and then you got that last one. And so you just kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's just it made me think of the beginning of the Dark Knight, and all that. They're just taking each other out, and that's kind of what I imagine Kalam almost did. He took the one out, and then the next one up just assumed that his buddy was behind him,
right?
And then he killed that one ahead of him, and so forth. Worked his way up.
Yeah, it's a good visual reference for sure. Yes, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Yeah. There's three young girls corpse things. It just makes me so mad. There's no escape from evil, is there? You know what I mean? First,
Yeah,
they
you're
get
right.
abused physically for pleasure purposes, and then they get headhunted. Like it just made me pissed. It just made me mad. Just made me mad
I understand.
when they're talking about when Bidethal's talking about nobody shall have the whirlwind or the desert goddess because it's to be the new heart of the House of Chains. I don't know why I didn't see that coming. Like it makes total sense. Bidethal thinking he would have it for his own, thus the cult he was arranging. But similar to Karza, that was all set up by the crippled god. You know what I mean? There's a gambit there. Bidethal thought he was doing his own thing. Clearly he wasn't. You know, it was all just kind of being set up,
Getting played. Yeah.
getting played. I'm hoping you appreciated this. Not that Bidethal said it, but because he said that, you know, as far as Sha'ik, you can have her too and march her back to Unta, as that would be far more poetic than Kalam realized. Are you picking up what that poeticness is?
No.
That's where she started the beginning of her journey, was in Unta and Chains, the
Oh,
prologue of Deadhouse Gates.
interesting.
So I thought that was just really clever.
Nice pickup.
Not that I like who it came from, but just that like poetic irony.
I would not have caught that if you didn't mention it.
I guess happy to do so.
That's why I appreciate doing this.
The next one, Master of the Talons would retreat back to the good graces of Lucine. I guess this also makes sense that as he's the master, so he can decide who he wants to fight. It's still a little weird to me that the Claw tried to take out the Talons, and now there seems to be like a truce of sorts. You know what I mean? Because he's the master, I guess he can probably just decide to leave those grievances off the table. Because, like, I always imagine them as adversaries, right? The Talon and the Claws.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now the master of the Claws, wants to get back into the good graces of Lucine.
The town.
Right. It's just weird to me. That's all.
I guess I didn't. This is not something I thought of either, I guess.
Oh, okay. That's fair. It's just, I don't know. It's just in my head. My canon is like, hey, why are these guys fighting? I mean, or aren't they fighting? I thought they were supposed to be enemies. That's what it's been set up to be. So what the fuck is happening? And also, like, the Master of the Talons is Corbolo Dom, right? So, like, now you think about all of the things that he did in Deadhouse Gates. I don't know. If I was Lucine, I would just be pissed at that. Like, you fucking killed one of my best commanders, and you got your ass kicked the whole time there. You won 1 out of 11 battles. Like, you suck. What the fuck? I don't know. It's just like, I understand it for what it is, but like on a deeper level, it almost doesn't make sense to me. Whatever. We'll move on. Fuck Corbolo, douche commander, twat waffle.
Let it all out, Justin. Let it all
Yes. Cotillion had been right about what he had said about the crippled god. I'm kind of going like, did we hear about this, or was this a convo off page? Like, I know that Cotillion and Kalam have a conversation near the beginning of the book as Kalam is like exiting Shadow Throne, right? Like on his way out. And so I'm wondering if there was like subtext in there that like we just didn't pick up on. And now that's what this is referring to, but because we didn't pick up on it, or is this potentially something that happened like off page?
I don't remember anything specific.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember a lot of things, so.
Oh, got it. Yeah, no worries. I just thought this whole section was fucking badass. You know, you got like a little bit of like the information kind of sandwiched between the death, you know, the destruction, the taking out of assassins stealthily, you know, like what we are used to from Kalam. So I guess that was cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool how it was written, and kind of wish we could see a little bit more of it. It's just kind of left to our imagination, which is fine too, but like it would be cool to see Cotillion dealing some damage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Kalam must mean a big deal to Cotillion. I mean, because for him I would imagine that he's not going to just go in there for anybody.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But yeah, if you want to kick off your section, actually.
Okay. Don seemed to have unleashed an army on his own allies. Time after time, Karsa found his path blocked by killers, their corpses left in his wake. Karsa had taken a couple of minor wounds by knives that were invested with sorcery, but most of the blood that dripped from him did not belong to Karsa. He walked with his sword in both hands, tip lowered to one side. There had been 4 assassins hiding outside Heberic's dwelling. Once he killed them, he cut his way into the tent, only to find it empty. Frustrated, he left. He also found Leoman's home empty, and it appeared to have been that way for some time. Karsa approached Bidethal's temple and could hear fighting inside. Raising his sword, Karsa moved forward. A blob crawled its way to Karsa's feet. It was Silgar. He spoke, saying, "He fights like a demon." Both blades cut through the wraiths and leave them writhing. A god stands on his shoulder. He pleaded for Karsa to kill them both. Karsa sneered and told Silgar he does not take commands from him. Silgar called him a fool and said they were brothers in the House of Chains. Karsa is the knight, and he was the leper. The crippled god had chosen them both, and Bidethal is the magi. Karsa asked if Bidethal was within. Silgar said no, he had wisely fled. The Claw and his patron god are killing the last of the wraiths now. Karsa has his own patron. He must kill them. Karsa said he would. He reversed the grip on his sword and drove it down through Silgar, killing him. He thought to himself that Leoman was right all that time ago. A quick death would have been better. Pulling his sword free, Karsa said he follows no patron god. He turned from the temple entrance, knowing Bidethal would have used sorcery to escape. However, his passage would leave footprints in the dust. He stepped over Silgar, the one who once would have enslaved him, and began searching.
I love this fucking part too. Finally we get some release from Silgar. He's dead.
Yeah.
God.
I really liked just the description of Karsa walking with his sword. He's got it in both hands, tipped to the ground, off to the side. I like that visual a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why, but
it's a confident walk, right? Like he's walking with an air of he's got his mind set.
Yeah, he's focused, dialed in.
Yeah, there we go. Dialed in. That's much better.
And then Karsa, when he does kill him, it was a long time coming, I think, but it wasn't like the death itself wasn't very brutal. It was more of like a mercy killing, right? To me.
I mean, maybe.
He'd already endured the worst. Quick. Yeah, he'd already gone through the worst of it. No arms, no legs, just a diseased piece of trash, and then you get a sword through the back. So,
right, exactly.
I think this was my last thought here, but Karsa pulls his sword free and says he follows no patron god, and that really got me wondering. Like, I wonder if there's any sort of correlation between Karsa and religion in like our world. And I think this is maybe a question I would ask Erickson. Because like Karsa, he starts out as this very like devout believer, this follower of his religion, right? And as the story progresses, it's kind of like his eyes open up and he sees things like through a different lens.
So I wonder if there's sense. Yeah.
So I wonder if there's some sort of like social commentary there or anything.
I mean, you totally could. I don't know. It's always hard because talks of like politics or religion are kind of like a no-no. When you talk to people you don't really know that well, we can assume certain things based on what we've read, but don't actually know for sure.
Well, and I don't think it's not anything that's meant to start a debate or anything.
No, but I mean, I know we have that document that we started in Memories of Ice of questions to ask. So we could probably pop that in there.
Yeah, we'll have to get
review
through
that.
that here. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought was interesting was that it says, or Silgar says that he has a patron god on his shoulder. But in the previous section, the one that I just, read, is he puts the acorn in his sash and says, "Oh, Hood's heartless hands." So I'm kind of wondering if maybe like we were assuming it was Cotillion, but actually it was someone else. Because in Memories of Ice, who accesses Hood's Warren but sat on shoulders? You always fucked up his. Yes.
Telemandus.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if Telemandus was helping out Kalam here.
I don't think so.
You don't think he journeyed with the mage he always sat on the shoulder? You don't think he's here witnessing this too?
I mean, he could be, but I mean, we know who's in that acorn.
Oh, for sure. Which is still really fucking confusing to me.
Yeah, because I don't remember that. Like, where did that come from?
Well, Telemandus's head was an acorn. He had the head of an acorn.
It's weird.
And his body is like sticks and twigs and stuff. So
yeah.
That was my only comment. I'm like, shoulder is very specific to me. Why not just say patron god?
I don't think that Telemandus is a robust warrior or anything like that.
No, but maybe he's helping. Maybe he's helping Kalam by accessing Hood.
Okay. I guess I would think it's Cotillion, but that's just me.
I don't know.
That's my headcanon.
I mean, it is mine too. I'm just more or less bringing up an odd choice of words. And we know that he's very particular on very specific word choices. So, and sometimes those word choices lead to a different subversion. That's all. That's all that thought's coming from.
And if it was Telemandus, I think like we would have got his like at least his name at some point in the chapter too.
Maybe, unless there's a higher purpose there, right? Like this is always the hard part about these discussions, is that like what's the hidden motive? Is there one? Isn't there one? So yeah,
it's hard to say sometimes for sure.
Right. But yeah, no, I'm ready to move on to this next one if you are.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. 20 of Mathok's clan warriors accompanied Korab as he made his way back to Leomin. Their journey was uncontested, but he was confident that they had been watched by unseen eyes the whole time. They rode up the slope to the camp, and he was greeted with familiar voices, warriors who he had fought side by side with. He had been given a hook-bladed sword from Sha'ik's armory and now raised it high in salute as the picket guards emerged from their places of hiding. Korab informs the guards that he must speak to Leomin and asks where he is. One of the guards said that Leomin was asleep, but with all the hootin' and hollerin', he's likely awake now. They explained to Korab to ride to the center summit, but the escort was to remain here. It was Leomin's orders that no one from outside the camp was allowed in. He told his escort to take no offense and then made his way to the center summit. The war leader was standing outside his tent drinking from a water skin. When he was done, he told Korab to speak. Korab explains that he was Leomin's only messenger to reach Sha'ik. He also explained that she has had a change of heart and no longer wants Dom to lead the army. She wants Leomin. Leomin wondered at that and surmised that Dom likely had his assassins between them and Sha'ik. Korab said yes, but would the assassins challenge their entire group? Leomin said that this was true and asked if Dom was aware of this change of heart. Korab explains that he doesn't, at least Dom hadn't been told when he had left. Sha'ik did demand the Master of the Talon's presence, though. Leomin figured that Dom would ignore that summons. As for the rest, he's sure that Dom is already aware that Sha'ik has changed her mind. He asks Korab if the Dog Slayers would follow a different commander. Korab said that they had no choice, as Sha'ik had ordered it. Leomin nodded and then turned to go back into his tent. He tells Korab to break camp. They are to ride to Sha'ik. Exultation filled Korab's chest as come the morrow, would belong to Leoman of the Flails. He whispered, as it should be. I didn't have any thoughts for this section. I mean, everything to me made sense visually, progressively. Everything flowed the way that I imagined it. I didn't necessarily have any particular thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I don't really have anything either. Just, the only thing that kind of sticks out to me is just where Korab, like, he's excited to be back under the command of Leoman.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like, I don't really know what the talking point on that would be, but just that's the only thing that really stuck out for any kind of reason, I guess.
That's fair. Makes sense to me.
All right. Kalam stepped outside, his clothes in tatters. Even though he was shook up, he had always thought of himself as a capable assassin and fought plenty of worthy enemies over the years. Cotillion had put him to shame. Kalam thought it was no wonder he was a god. He had never seen such skill, and with a rope no less. He took a deep breath and thought he had done what Cotillion had asked. He had found the source of the threat to the realm of shadow, or at least confirmed numerous suspicions. The crawled Emerlon fragment would be the path of usurpation by the crippled god. The House of Chains had come into play, and the world was a dangerous place. He thought that he would leave that to Cotillion and Amanus. He had more pressing things to deal with right now, and Cotillion had been nice enough to deliver a pair of Kalam's favorite weapons. He found Silgar's corpse and looked around the wound in awe and thought if he didn't know better, he would have thought it was an Aima's sword that caused it. Kalam stopped to think. Dom wouldn't set up his base in the ruins of the city or in the stone forest to the west. He would want a clear, level area, open lines of sight. He thought to the east where there had been fields long ago and set out in that direction. There were heavy layers of sorcery that flowed like streams, sometimes so thick Kalam had to lean forward to fight his way through. They were mixed beyond recognition. His bones and head hurt, and his eyes felt as if someone was stirring hot sand behind them. He found a well-worn path going east, staying deep in the shadows. He found a fortified embankment and thought Malazan layout. That was a mistake for Dom to have made. He was about to get closer when soldiers emerged. He ducked into an alley. The soldiers marched past with muffled weapons, and Kalam thought the fewer soldiers within, the better. But Dom would not be careless when protecting himself. Kalam thought that Dom calls himself the master of talons, and that Cotillion wouldn't know anything about them. Once the last soldier passed, he waited another minute before heading into the camp. The steep embankment would be a problem for an approaching army, but not for a lone assassin. He made his way into the camp, towards the command tent. Guards lined it, every 5 paces, all holding assault crossbows while torches lit up every 10 paces. There were 3 other figures who bore no weapons, and Kalam thought about the wards. He could only deal with one thing at a time. He took out his ribless crossbows, put them in their grooves, and cocked the weapons. Taking some time to think about the situation. As he watched, he saw the air swirl. A portal opened and Rouleau appeared. He looked tired but triumphant. He went inside and the 3 assassins followed him. A very light hand landed on Kalam's shoulder. A voice spoke. Eyes forward, soldier. Kalam knew the voice from years ago and thought the bastard was dead. Dead before Surly took the throne. The voice continued to speak, saying there was no love lost between him and the company he is sharing again. He figured he had seen the last of all of them and Kalam. Oh well, but he needed to get into the tent, didn't he? A distraction? Could he give them a minute? And the hand lifted away. Kalam took a deep breath, wondering what in Hood's name was happening. That damn captain went renegade. They found his body in Malaz City the morning after the assassination, or something that was close to his body. He looked back at the command tent. Screams erupted into the night, along with the unmistakable sounds of Moranth munitions. The guards were running. Kalam tucked one crossbow away and drew his otadral knife. He waited until there were only 2 dog slayers visible to the right of the entrance. Then Kalam went forward. He took his crossbow out of the guard. His crossbow took out the guard further away, while his knife finished the closer guard. Blood sprayed as he pulled his knife free and entered the tent. Wards closed in on him. Once inside, he reloaded his crossbows and affixed them back to his arms. Inside, there was only one gray-robed assassin. He had Kethra knives as he spun into guard stance. He appeared to be Pardu based on the tattoos Kalam could see. The assassin spoke to Kalam, addressing him by name and saying he didn't think Kalam would remember him. Kalam drew out his other long knife and attacked. It was an even fight, the Pardu trying to break Kalam's lighter weapons with his heavy Kethra knives, and Kalam knew he was running out of time. Sorcery began to answer the Moranth munitions, and Kalam thought the assassin didn't enter the tent alone. Through some fancy footwork and deception, Kalam got the assassin to make a fatal mistake and stabbed him in the belly, but in the process, Kalam lost his knife. As the man fell to the floor, Kalam told him he hadn't forgot who he was. Camus Rouleau said it was a shame. Kalam said he had been looking for him, and the two other Talons stood on Rouleau's side. Rouleau said they were expecting an attack by the Claws, but an attack by a long-dead ghost was not on their bingo card. He said it is Raraku, and that this land is waking up, but soon there will be silence. One of the assassins said Kalam had an otateral weapon. Rouleau said they would have to take him down the old-fashioned way. Were they up to the task? One spoke, saying they both should be sufficient. One-on-one? Probably not, but they had studied his patterns. Kalam said the man was probably right about that, and he threw the acorn on the ground. The three men flinched. One of the Talons kicked it aside and moved forward, and Kalam shot them both with his wrist crossbows, telling them they were careless. Rouleau unveiled his warren, but was caught unaware by sorcery. Death magic surrounded him. His body burned on the ground. A figure rose from where the Talon had kicked the acorn and spoke, saying it was disloyalty that bothered him the most. We always answer it. Always have and always will. Kalam picked up his knife he had lost and told Quickben it was good to see him. Kalam thought he looked older, worn down, scars that weren't written on his skin but on his heart. When this was done, Kalam didn't think Quickben would have anything good to tell him. Kalam asked if Quickben had anything to do with the diversion. Quickben answered and said no, and neither did Hood, but the hoary bastard was here now. It was all Raraku. Kalam said that's what Rouleau had said as well, not that he understood either of them. Quickben said he would explain later, but Rouleau had Hinaris with, and she's behind some of the wards. Rouleau had raised. Kalam drew his otateral knife and said he would take care of that. The room beyond the two entered was small, mostly taken up with a mat table and Hinaris's corpse on it. Blood still flowed down the sides. The two men glanced at each other. As they looked, they found something on her corpse. A pearl. Kalam said, "The way seems clear." They went through another wall flap and found Dom in its chair. He was shook up. He said he sent an emissary to the adjunct. It was an invitation. He was prepared to attack Sha'ik with the dog slayers. Kalam told him if he thought they came with her answer, he was very wrong. Dom's eyes shot to Quickben and said they all assumed he was dead with the rest of the bridge burners, or at least still on Genebacchus. Quickben shrugged and said Tayshren sent him ahead, but he had still brought the fleet across on mage-driven winds. Dujek and his legions arrived in Erlitzen a week ago. Dom said he meant what was left of the legions. Quickben said he thought it was more than enough to complement the adjunct's forces. Kalam could only stare, and he thought to himself, bridge burners? Dead? Whiskey Jack? Gods, what happened over there? Dom said they could salvage this. All of 7 cities returned to the Empress. The Sha'ik brought in chains before the Empress. Quickben said he was looking for a pardon for his men and himself. He must have lost his mind. Dom screamed, "Then die!" and went for Quickben's throat. Kalam smashed the handle of his knife into his head and followed it up with a solid punch to the face. When he was on the ground, Quickben told Kalam to tie him up. From the sounds of it outside, the diversion was over. He would find them a way out. Kalam asked where they would bring Dom. Quickben said he had a thought. Kalam asked about the bridge burners and Whiskey Jack. Quickben told him they were all dead, with the exception of Picker and a couple others. But there was a story, and he would tell it when there was time. Kalam looked down at Dom, unconscious, and said he felt like cutting throats. Quickben said, "Not him, not now." All Kalam could think was that he was right, but to hold on to his feelings in time, he already missed Whiskey Jack. Sad face.
Sad face for sure.
Well, I've got a few things here.
Yeah, let's hear him.
So up towards the top here, so I guess this kind of, to me, puts your Talamanda's thought
Dang
to
it.
rest here a little bit.
Yeah,
I totally
good.
forgot about this until we reread it, but
it's a good thought. It was a good thought.
But I think it's cool that it isn't something normal like a sword that Cotillion uses. He's killing people with a rope. But then I kind of think of like Mariel of Redwall.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah. Her gull whacker.
Yeah. A little different, but kind of similar, right?
She was lethal with that shit.
Yeah. Who is this that puts their hand on Kalam?
Well, wasn't it? I don't know, to answer your question in short, but wasn't it didn't they say something about acid in his face or something like that?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm mistaken then. So
yeah, I don't know who it was. I kind of jotted down a name thinking maybe it was Dasim Ultor, but I don't really think that's the case.
no. I think it's just supposed to be a dead bridge burner.
Okay. But then it's more mysterious characters. This assassin that he's fighting, who is that?
I don't
know. Nothing ringing your bell
either? I would imagine that it probably had something to do with Kalam's previous adventures in Seven Cities, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that we're supposed to know. I think this is probably his first introduction to us, the readers.
Well, I don't like not knowing.
Yeah. You're just gonna have to be uncomfortable there, sir.
Yeah, I'll deal with it. But I just like reading, like, it just feels like we should have an idea who it is, but if we do, it's escaping both of us, so I don't feel so bad then.
Yeah, fair.
Rouleau's death here was pretty brutal. He's trying to run away and then gets wrapped up in some sorcery, and he's just crisping on the ground, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whatever him and Febril had planned, at this point, I was like, I don't think that that's coming to fruition. So
sucks to suck, I guess.
Yeah. I still want to know what he did, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel bad that he died at all. So
no.
And then we get Quick Ben back.
He was an acorn this whole time.
Yeah, which, like, again, maybe you're on the right track. You know, it's got something to do with Talamandas. I don't know, but like, where the hell did that come from?
I just remember in one section in a previous chapter, I think it was 22. No, it was 23 when an acorn like falls at his lap or something like that, and he's like talking to it like, "Oh, been a long time since I've seen you." You know what I mean? And we're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So yeah.
I don't see any reason why we would have thought, "Oh, that's Quick Ben."
Right. Because why would we think an acorn is Quick Ben? Everything else is Quick Ben.
Yeah, we would have no reason to think that.
Yeah.
And then a little further on here, we find Hinaris' corpse on a map table with a pearl on it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a calling card, do you think, as to who killed her?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's totally confirmed later, too.
Oh, maybe I missed that then.
Yeah.
Okay. It seemed a little obvious, but I was like, that's got to be what it is.
Yeah, I think it's revealed in my last section. The last section of the book. So we can definitely talk about it then. But it makes sense with what this is.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how much I have more to say on it than just, wanting that confirmation.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Dujek and his legions arrived at Erliton a week ago. And I mean, I don't think that's going to be a reunion we're going to get in this book, but I do look forward to it when it does happen.
Yeah, I would imagine that'll probably be, if I had to guess, maybe what happens in some of the earlier chapters of Bone Hunters. There's a reunion with, Tavor and Dujek and all them.
I think that likely makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Kalam, he's just kind of in a daze when he's getting the news about Bridgers being dead, Whiskey Jack. And Quickbent tells him, that there's a story for all this, and when there's time, he'll tell it. And I could just like imagine Kalam's not going to take that news very well. And then, in a couple sentences, we see it, where he doesn't take it that well. But I wonder, once he actually gets that story, if it's going to be like worse for him, or maybe he's not even going to want to hear the story. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that it's probably not going to be as elaborate in detail because why would he repeat that info when we, the readers, already understand what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it kind of being like at the end of Dead House Gates, or end of Memories of Ice. Something
Yeah.
like that at like the end of a chapter. Where he starts to tell him or whatever. But I don't know that it's something we'll see a whole lot of on page or anything.
Yeah. The only thing that I had for this section that is more just kind of a thing, and I know I told you about it, but on page 943, kind of like 2/3 down, Quick Ben is like, have anything to do with the diversion? Or Kalam, he asked Quick Ben, did you, he asked Quick Ben, have anything to do with the diversion? Quick Ben responds, no, nor did Hood, although the hoary bastards arrived. This is all Raraku. And then it goes, so, Amist said, not that I understand either of you. Oh, I see. So it's not a typo. Kalam is just saying that Kamist said the same thing. I thought it was supposed to be Kalam said
Oh,
instead of.
gotcha.
So never mind.
Gotcha.
Ignore that.
All good,
Damn.
man.
Good thing we didn't bring that up because he would have been all like, you're an idiot.
Or you've been very confused, but
Yeah. I'm sure he probably maybe doesn't remember that specific wording.
well, I mean, he only wrote how many billions of words. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to expect him to remember, a specific passage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or a specific conversation
Right.
and the back and forth that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's all I've got here.
All right. Ready
go
to
on?
kick her in?
Yeah.
There was a time for everything, this night and for the day to come. Bidethal needed Sha'ik and the Whirlwind Goddess. Perhaps there may be an opportunity for bargaining. That is, once the Whirlwind Goddess has cooled down. He knows what Febril has done. He knows what Dom and Rollo have planned for the dawn. They could be stopped. The knives could be turned. He hobbled as quickly as he could toward Sha'ik's camp. Ghosts appeared on the side of the vision, but the shadows protected him. In the distance, he heard screams, detonations, and sorcery. He realized that it was coming from the Dogslayer camp. He thought to himself that the claw made it, after all, to Dom's dwelling. He said that this was good, but also very troubling. The danger of assassins still existed, but that diminished the closer he got to Sha'ik's abode. Still, the streets and alleys were disturbingly deserted. He came within sight of the palace and thought to himself that he would expose Dom to the goddess. They would hunt down Febril because even the goddess would have to kneel to his power once she saw his pets. A hand shot out of the darkness to grab Bidethal's throat. He was lifted into the air and then thrown to the ground. Blinded and choking, his shadow servants swarmed to defend him. He heard a growl and then a hissing sound of something massive. Just like that, the shadow wraiths were gone. Slowly, he was able to make out the figure in front of him. He recognized him as Toblakai. Karsa told Bidethal that he should have left Fellows and Younger alone. Behind and round the Toblakai were ghosts, chained souls. Bidethal said that they were both soldiers for the same god. He commanded Karza to let him speak, as he would save Sha'ik. Karza said that the high priest didn't. He knows where Bidethal's sick desire stems from, knows where the pleasure hides. The pleasure Bidethal would take from others. Witness. Karza set down the stone sword and reached between the high priest's legs. Karza's hands grabbed around anything it could hold and tore. With a ripping of flesh and tendons and shreds of muscle, a flood of blood, the hand came away with its mangled prize. The pain was unbearable. The pain was rending of his soul. It devoured him. The blood was pouring out, even as death seeped across his skin and bones. He started fading to black. The only thing that remained in his vision was Karza, who remained cool as he watched the high priest die. He thought, death? Yes, you fool, Toblakai. The hand around his neck relaxed, and he involuntarily wanted to scream. Something soft and bloody pushed into his mouth. Karza said, for you, Bidethal, for every nameless girl child you destroyed. Here, choke on your pleasure. Choke he did, until Hood's gate appeared. And there, gathered by Hood, waited demons, who were just like Bidethal in nature, gleeful, closing in on their newest victim. A lifetime of vicious pleasure, an eternity of pain in answer. For even Hood understood the necessity of balance.
Satisfying.
Yes. And I feel like you totally called it. Because you were like, I hope he gets his dick ripped off. And then he's forced to eat it or some shit like that.
Yes. Dude, and this book, I have not had any spoilers. So that's not like, I haven't had any of this book, which is nice. I don't remember if I had one. Did I have one in Memories of Ice?
You did. I don't remember what it was, though.
And then obviously I had Dead House Gates, yeah. But I haven't had anything in this one, so.
Well, here's where I kind of go back to, I'm not really sure what Febrile has planned. My guess is it seems like it was to use the Whirlwind and Sha'ik to defeat the Malazans to bring back 7 cities to the way it was. Then why join Dom and Rouleau if he suspected they would betray the goddess just to take them out first? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did Febrile know that the Whirlwind allowed Kalam in to kill Dom and Rouleau? So therefore he could, I'm a little like, I'm not quite sure what his plan actually entailed. I know there's a lot of people that are gunning for the Whirlwind, and I think Febrile is definitely one of them. But like the details of that, I can't seem to make out. It kind of seems like he wants to avenge 7 cities from the Malazans.
I don't know what is. I have no idea.
Yeah. I think it's cool that we hear the screams and detonations and sorcery. I even wrote it here, the diversion the acid-faced bridge burner had created for Kalam. And really cool how we get a timeline from these little details. Could have swore that it said something about acid.
Maybe you were just on acid when you were reading it?
Maybe. That's possible.
Oh, it is?
Oh, yeah, here it is. He knew that voice from more years back than he'd like to think, but that bastard's dead. Dead before Surly took the throne. Granted, the voice continued, and Kalam knew that acid-spattered face was grinning. No love's lost between me and the company I'm sharing again.
I don't remember anybody that we've met getting acid splashed.
I know that like there's been bridge burner talk about previous captains, and one of them, I feel something about his helmet, like there were snakes in his helmet and he died because he got bit or something like that. I don't remember what book that was in, but it was like a story of a previous, I think it was Memories of Ice.
The only thing I remember with snakes was talking about Nock when they were on the boat and they stopped at whatever island to refill their water barrels, and they filled them up with snakes.
Yeah. I get this really weird suspicion and like feeling that Esselmont's Night of Knives is a more elaborate story of what we heard from Nock in chapter 5 to Devore, or chapter 7 or whatever that was. So maybe we'll meet the captain of the bridge burner who gets killed by acid, or whatever.
Yeah, it's possible.
Next thought, they would hunt down Febrile because even the goddess would have to kneel to his power once he saw his pets. So he plans to, Bidethal, essentially he plans to intimidate the goddess with the 2 hounds of darkness, as well as expose Febrile, who, as I said, I think wants to use the goddess for his own means. I'm still confused about what his plan was, and also Dom's plan to betray the goddess and join forces with the Malazans. But I mean, so like I think I've got Bidethol figured out. I think I've got Dom and Rouleau figured out, but I'm not quite sure about Febrile still. But I mean, does all that kind of sound right?
I think so, but I just think, like, how stupid is Bidethal to think he could control these hounds of darkness?
You must have that much faith in the crippled god.
I think they would have just ripped him apart.
But here's the interesting thing about the hounds, right? Is nobody has mentioned anything about flaws with them. But what does the crippled god always go after?
Imperfection.
So the hounds have to be flawed in some way. I don't think we're told that though yet.
I don't think I've got any arguing points, I suppose.
I'm sure like maybe that will all be revealed in good time, but I'm just saying that there hasn't been a situation in the story so far where the crippled god has taken someone with flaws. Bidethal obviously has flaws. Tarza obviously has flaws, you know? So why would he go against his MO now?
I don't know.
When Karza's grabbing Bidethal's junk and ripping the fucking shit out of it.
Grab his dick and twist it.
Yep. Fucking right, Donkey. God, that was some justice. That's like the best justice I have read in a long time. Like,
Yeah.
That felt like complete, you know?
Yeah, it was just like reading that. I was just like, yes, he like. It feels like it's so few and far between that a character gets what they deserve.
Right. Or it's like so underwhelming that you're like, really? That's it? You know? Or it's like so over the top that like you can't make heads or tails of it. But this was just perfect. Like just perfect.
It was yes, satisfying to say the least.
Yeah, and then when he shoves his dick in his mouth, I was just like, yes, yes, yes. Danny can attest. She's just like, what? And then like I immediately had to tell her. So I'm like, yeah, this dude just got his dick ripped off and shoved in his mouth.
Yeah, I was summarizing it, and Olive asked me what my book was about, and I'm like, well, there was a pedophile who had his dick ripped off and shoved it into his mouth, and she's like, oh, awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Last thought here, this part where Bidethal is essentially at Hood's gate, and there's a like consort of gleeful demons awaiting for it, because even like a lifetime of pleasure, an eternity of pain in answer, for even Hood understood the necessity of balance. And to me, this was just icing on top of the cake, because basically Bidethal harmed so many that Hood had no choice but to make up for it, to keep things in balance. And then, you know, what we do in this life will echo into eternity.
He's earned it.
That's all I have to say about like the best scene in Malazan history, at least our history. That's definitely up there. That's going to be one of those things I will not forget. Never, ever, ever.
Yes, it's definitely got to be like at minimum like a top 5 moment for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, outside of that, I'm ready to move on.
All right, section 12. Lestara looked up and tried to see through the darkness. Behind her was starlit desert, but ahead darkness covered the oasis. Not long ago, she had heard distant thumps and screams. Now it was quiet. She checked her weapons and was about to leave when a voice told her not to move. It was Cotillion, and she told him if he was here to watch, there wasn't much to see. She had awoken Pearl, and he didn't even swear much despite his headache, and now he's down there somewhere. Cotillion said he was already returning. He can feel what is coming. Lestara asked what was coming that drove him to come hide with her. Cotillion said there were times where it was best to sit back and wait. The holy desert itself senses an ancient foe and will rise to the occasion if need be. And what was more interesting is that the Corralled Emerlon fragment the whirlwind goddess would claim is now manifesting itself. The goddess is making a gate big enough to swallow the entire oasis. She is making a play for Raraku's immortal heart, but the irony is that she doesn't see that she is being played by a more clever god who would take this fragment all for himself and name it the House of Chains. That is why it's best to remain here, for the entire world is at war. Lostara said none of that mattered to her. She and Pearl were here for Felison. Cotillion said they had found her, yet she remains out of reach to both of them. Lostara said they would need to be patient. Cotillion said just like he had advised, and he disappeared. After he was gone, Lostara said goodbye to you as well, sarcastically, and bundled up to wait. I think we got a couple thoughts here in this short section. So they want to make a gate. The goddess is making a gate big enough to swallow the entire oasis. And so do you think like it would physically disappear, or would this be more of like a black coral type thing?
You know, I had thoughts about this, and I get more of the Nascent type vibes, but maybe on a smaller scale. You know, because it's making a play for Raraku's immortal heart. My guess is that, you know, like we have been told in previous chapters, she's trying to steal, right, Raraku and use it for herself to make herself more powerful. So I would imagine in order for her to do that, she has to strip away layers. Because Raraku's sorcery seems to be, from what I can gather, based on the multitudes of layers that is the sand, you know?
Gotcha.
What specifically that means, that's my best guess.
All right. My other thought here is this whole bit where basically that the goddess is getting played by the crippled god, right?
Mm-hmm.
He'd take the fragment all for himself, name it the House of Chains. And I just feel like you probably have a better understanding of how that would work. Maybe you can explain it in a little simpler terms for me.
I mean, I guess to me, it's one of those things where, you know, he would use that power to give his house some stake, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it would necessarily be tied to the seven cities, but it would be power that he can use for himself. Because
I'll take it.
I know it briefly states it, and it's not really that big of a spoiler because we kind of talked about it in Memories of Ice, but it kind of seems like at this point, Ganoz has sanctified the House of Chains. So now he is forced to operate by the rules of the Deck of the Dragon. And so therefore he can only do what he's allowed to do now. Right? So there are chains to the House of Chains. And so he's got to make moves with powers that are loosely available.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I would imagine we'll probably start seeing him go after the first thrones of things, or after the thrones, to try to gain that power too.
All right. Yeah, I'm interested to see what we're going to get.
Yeah.
That was all I had, I believe, here for this section, unless there's anything else you would like to discuss.
Not that I can think of, sir.
All right. Well, keep on rocking.
Yeah. All right. Assassins armed with crossbows had crept up behind him. Febrile killed them one after another as soon as they arrived with a host of spells, and now his sorceress web told him that there were no more. Indeed, Dom and Rouleau were held up in their den by ghosts and agents of the Malazan Empire. Wide and bloody paths had been carved across his sorceress web, leaving him blind here and there, but none stretched anywhere near his current position. Soon the oasis behind him would become a nightmare, only to make and find out you weren't dreaming. Febrile himself would vanish from the minds of his enemies in the face of more immediate threats. Dawn was 2 hours away. Behind him, darkness had devoured the oasis. Everything was proceeding perfectly. The starlight also proved sufficient for Febrile to detect the shadow that fell over him. A voice from above said that he never liked Febrile. Squealing, the high priest sought to dive forward, but instead was lifted up high from the ground, then broken. The snap of his spine was like brittle wood in the cold night air. And again, the only thing that I have was fucking yes. God, this was cool. Strolling along all confident as fuck, and then boop, you're picked up and snapped like a toothpick. Dead. That was it.
Yeah. Carson's kind of on a roll here with taking out players.
Yeah, he definitely is. But yeah, that Febral's dead. Bidethal's dead. I think that we had a conversation in a previous episode about which of the high mages would survive. And I think that you and I both kind of unanimously agreed that Bidethal and Febral would probably die and Lorik would make it. I know that we were a little on the fence about Lorik, but as to whether he would survive or not.
I think I was even maybe a little 50-50 on Federal too. I guess I don't remember, but I wouldn't have been. I wasn't going to be too surprised if he didn't make it. So, but yeah, I was happy to see him get his comeuppance as well.
For sure.
All right. Continuing on with Febral here, Carson chucked Febral's body aside and looked up to the stars to clear his mind. Urgal's withered voice was screaming in his head. It was that voice that had driven him from the Oasis, step by step. The false god of the Urid tribe wanted him gone. Still, he was being pushed away hard from the Oasis for what was about to happen, and Karsa did not like being pushed. Holding his sword, he turned and faced the Oasis. All the chains behind him started to pull him away. In defiance, he leaned forward and thought to himself, I am the master of these chains. I, Karsa Orlong, yield to no one, not gods, not the souls I have slain. I will walk forward now, and either resistance shall end or the chains will be snapped. Twin howls tore through the night suddenly and as fierce as lightning strikes, and Karsa smiled, knowing they had arrived. He lifted his sword point slightly and took off into the Oasis. There was no longer tension on his chains, and at least for this night, all resistance to the Toplikai had vanished. Did I have anything here?
Yes, just they had arrived.
Yeah, so it's got to be the Hounds of Darkness with the howls there, but how does Carson know about them? Was there some overlap? Did he hear about them somewhere?
I'm going to go with because been seen as someone inside of the House of Chains, that maybe he was aware that they were coming this night. Maybe that's also part of his reason for coming back, is he wants to protect the people he cares about, you know?
I feel like he came back because he wanted to kill people. I mean, he wanted to protect Leoman. Like, that was the only one he wanted to protect, really.
Well, and Felzen.
Yeah, I suppose. But I think he just wanted to kill more than protect.
Yeah. But do you think Bidethal would have used the Hounds? Do you think Bidethal would have spared Felzen from the Hounds of Darkness?
Probably not.
So that to me is motive enough for Karza to be returning. Just a thought, you know.
Fair point.
Yeah. It's not explicitly said. I mean, obviously, this is just our very little understanding of things that are happening. But I really love this chain part where, like, I will walk forward now and either resistance shall end or the chains will be snapped. And then, boom, they give in.
Yeah, just kind of fall in line. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, even just his whole, like, thought to himself that, like, I bow to no one. It was neat. And like, that just made me think more of my, like, question is he just kind of some, I don't know how to word it, like, is he, I don't want to say an answer to religion or anything like that, but is there something in that vein there?
Maybe. Probably. I mean, I think the crippled god is probably going, oh shit, with this one. For sure.
Yeah, it would be interesting if we get to see something, you know, like just a crippled god panicking or anything.
Yeah, right. I would think so. I mean, not everything can go smoothly for him, but this is a bad thing to not go smoothly for him.
Yeah, it is not good.
Yeah, those are all my thoughts about that. I just loved the way he faces and stays true to himself, you know? Like he doesn't give in. He's always moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. No, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I don't have anything else either here. Good to move on.
Yeah. This is probably one of my other favorite sections Like, I really like this section.
If this is the one I think it is, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Fist Gamut laid on his cot. A tightness seized his throat, making it hard to breathe. Pain radiated out from behind his right eye, a pain he had never felt before. He turned over onto his side and vomited. His eyes were open, but he was blind. There had been headaches every day since his fall from his horse, but nothing like this. The barely healed knife slash on his palm had reopened. Groaning, he clambered from his cot, now on his hands and knees. He thought to himself that he needed to move. He needed to act, to do something. A time of blankness, and he realized he stood at the tent flap. He was wearing his armor and the helm on his head. The pain was fading and the coolness rising to take its place. He needed to go outside to get a horse. A guard tried to stop him, but he waved her away and headed for the corrals. He thought that it was time to ride. Gamut found a horse, a Paran horse, and then mounted the beast. He rode down the ramp, around the jagged island, and out towards the basin. He saw 3 figures ahead standing at the ridge. He thought these 3, they are what will come. Nil, Nether, and Grub. Grub turned as Gamut reined in beside him. Grub said that the Wiccans and the Malazans are on the flanks, but the Fist's assault would be straight at the Dogslayer's camp. Gamut followed Grub's pointed finger. Foot soldiers and cavalry were massing in the basin. Grub said to ride to them. Black and red armor, the rumble of countless feet. He rode alongside a column of soldiers casting an appraising eye over him. The wing of the cavalry swept around and engulfed him. One rider rode close, wearing a dragon-winged helmet. It said to ride with them, to which Gamut said he could not, for he had to command. The rider told the Fists that he wouldn't be commanding this night. Ride with them as if he were a soldier again, guarding the companions around him. A surge of excitement rose through him, and the pain in his head was gone. He wanted this. The helm soldier asked Gamut if he was with them, to which Gamut replied that he was. They reached the ramp of the Dogslayers, but yet the Dogslayers had yet to sound the alarm. Gamut thought to himself that the fools had slept through it all, or perhaps sorcery had deadened the sound of their approach. The company's standards was off to his left. He stared at it, wondering why he'd never seen it before. There was something similar to the Kundral in design. He figured it was a clan from the Kundral, which made sense given the archaic armor they wore. He had cool and collected thoughts as his horse thundered alongside the others. Gamut looked up and saw the crest before them. He lifted his sword high and let out a savage scream. They crested the ridge and swept out within the ranks of the unaware Dogslayer camp. Screams came from all sides, faint and muted, sounds of battle, but they seemed distant. Gamut swung his sword, his eyes meeting those of the Dogslayers. He watched as they were struck down. Masses poured over the trenches, swords chopping down. The ramp of the east was overrun by Wiccans. Gamut saw the standards of Crow, Foolish Dog, and Weasel. Out of the near black sky descended butterflies. They came in a swarm and unleashed carnage in the trenches. The ramp to the west, there were Moranth explosions. Gamut watched that battle, a scene almost dulled, as if he was looking at ancient armies warring an eternal battle. They had come for the Dogslayers, for the butchers of the unarmed Malazans. The fight raged on, and it was particularly one-sided. The enemy seemed unable to muster any kind of defense. They just died in their trenches, or seeking to retreat and run away, but they were quickly run down and killed. He could hear the battle song now, rising and falling in waves, reaching a climax that was yet to come. He thought to himself that they have waited long for their own song, a song of their deeds and their struggles, their lives and their deaths. They needed their own voice, so their spirits could march ever onward, to battle, to war, manning these walls in brick and sand, defending the bone-dry harbors and the dead cities that once flickered with life on the warm, shallow sea. Even memories needed to be defended. He fought side by side with his dark-skinned friends and grew to love them. At last, the dragon-helmed warrior reined in, and he swung his sword in the air to greet them. The rider raised her visor on her helm and revealed to Gamut her dark-skinned features. Gamut shouted that there were more. His voice sounded far away. They must ride. The woman laughed and said that the tribes would not ride. They were to head towards the harbors. She asked if Gamut would join them. He saw more than a professional interest in her eyes. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Gamut said that he shall. She asked if he would leave his friends. Gamut said for her he would. The laugh and smile stole his heart. A final glance at the east and west ramp showed no movement. The Wiccans to the east had ridden on, although a lone crow circled overhead. The Malazans to the west had withdrawn. The butterflies had vanished. In the trenches of the dog slayers, only the dead remained. Gamut thought to himself that she would be pleased. Vengeance was delivered. She would understand and be pleased, as he is. Goodbye, Adjunct Tavor.
So I see your comment that you added here. I think you're right. And when I told you like I had thoughts on Gamut, that was my thought that I would be willing to bet that he is dead.
Right. I didn't see it at first until I was summarizing, and I'm like the sickness at the beginning, and then when I was summarizing, just rereading it now, a time of blankness, right? Like that's a transition.
There's just a lot of hints, just like the way that the fighting went and that type of thing, and then obviously like the very end of it too. But
Right. Because it almost makes it seem like he's part of this army now.
yes, I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, Derek and I, what we're saying to all you people listening to us is we believe that Gamut has died. What exactly killed him? I'm unsure. Maybe it was just his infinite sorrow for things. We think that a time of blankness, and he realized he stood at the tent flap. This was his transition from being sick to dead to now alive because he's wearing armor. The pain is gone. And then it says a coolness is rising to take its place, which, when you're dead, you're cold, right?
I think what tipped it off to me a lot was just this, how it talks about like when they're fighting and there really wasn't like much of a resistance. Like I feel like he was like one of those spirits, one of those ghosts.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
kind of where I was picking it up on.
Yep. The surge of excitement rose through him, and the pain in his head was gone. This is, to me, the call of Raraku. I think that Raraku has accepted his soul, right? And now he gets to. What was also cool is that we got to see the standards of the Wiccans, the crow, the foolish dog, and the weasel, which I absolutely fucking loved because Raraku raised these clans because they died in Raraku. And now they are here seeking their vengeance. They got their revenge, right? Like, and I wonder how much foreshadowing there is in Dead House Gates. It's almost like maybe Coltane knew that Raraku would rise them to avenge him. You know what I mean? Like, he just seems so like, whatever, dude. Why wouldn't he take that amulet? Like, isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah, I don't know that I've got an answer for you, man.
And going alongside of that, they had come for the dog slayers, for the butchers of the unarmed Malazans. And they're talking about when they came out of Aaron for a peace treaty that Malik Rel at the end of Dead House Gates had set up. You remember that?
Yeah, fuck him.
Yep. And that's when Duiker came out. So it's just crazy. Okay, so yeah, we think that Gamut is dead. So the very end, I wonder if there will be some type of follow-up to him physically passing. Like maybe in the next chapter there'll be a section where everyone's grieving the loss of Gamut, or Tavor is, or
Yeah, I don't know.
because I feel like without that context, people might be very confused by this section. So, like, to me, it only makes sense if you think he's died.
Yeah, I mean, and if there's not anything, like it's just very ambiguous then.
Right, exactly.
But it reminds me a lot of who is the dude in Memories of Ice that turned into a bird and flew away.
Someone turned into a bird?
Yeah, because that was like he got to get away, and that was kind of like a happy. Even though Gamut dies here, it still kind of feels like a happy ending to me.
It was the drunk who lost his family in a fire Gruntel's friend, and
I
he was
can't remember
also
his.
Bosch
Yeah,
Lane and
okay.
Corporal Broach's like wagon servant or something like that.
Well, that's Mancy.
Yeah, but there was another guy that they hired.
Yeah, and I can't remember his name right now.
I can't remember it either. Yeah, because he gave
But
us like an aerial berg, uh,
oh, memories of ice characters. Buke.
Buke. There it is. Totally forgot about him. Yeah, Buke
But
got
it
away. Yeah,
feels like that to me. It feels similar to that.
where like we don't need any more explanation. It's just it is what it is, and it's palatable.
I get the same, like what I mean is it feels similar to me is just that like it's about as happy of an ending as you're gonna get in this book series. You know, it's not happily ever after, but it's like you said, he's like transitioned to the afterlife, like he's at peace with everything.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's all you can say, right?
Two things, I guess, quick, but I know you mentioned it a little bit, but like the butterflies coming back in the section, when I read that, I was like just floored, like blew me away. I couldn't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But then the lone crow circling overhead, think it's like Coltane or anything, or
Maybe
could be.
Sormo or somebody. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Probably could be Coltane. Obviously Wiccan in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Yeah,
Those are the only additional thoughts I had for you though.
sweet. Well, are you ready to take on the next one?
Yep. Cork settled next to Fiddler and asked the sergeant what he was looking at. Fid said nothing, or at least nothing that made sense to him. Cork said he didn't think they would see battles this morning. Fid looked at him for a moment and sighed and told Cork, the glory of battle dwells only in the bard's voice, the teller of woven words. Glory belongs to the ghosts and poets. What you hear and dream isn't the same as what you live. Blur the distinction at your own peril, lad. Cork said he thought Fiddler had been a soldier his entire life. If that doesn't ease the thirst within him, then why is he here? Fid said he didn't have an answer for that, but thinks maybe he was called here. Cork asked if it was the song Fid could hear and what it meant. Fid said he thought Quick Ben would have a better answer for that, but one thought kept going through his mind. The bridge burners had ascended. Cork slowly backed away, or that at least those that had died, while those were still alive, were mingling in the mortal realm. Cork asked if he was expecting to die soon. Fid said he wasn't planning on it, and Cork said he was happy to hear it because they liked their sergeant. Fid thought to himself that he appreciated the thought, and he looked back to the darkness. He thought he could hear something. It felt almost as if friends were fighting. He could almost hear the sounds of battle. Then there were two loud howls. Fid got to his feet, exclaiming, Hood's breath. Smiles asked what in Hood's name that was. Fid thought it couldn't be, and the Oasis began to change.
Ooh.
I think I really only had one thought, but just this, like, Fiddler talking about war, right? Telling Cork that it isn't as glorious as what, the songs say, what the stories say. It's what you live isn't the same as what you're dreaming. It's worse than that. And I just like, damn, if that isn't profound. And just like that line I really loved. And again, like not having ever served in the military, not ever having seen a battle, thankfully, I could never really fully understand. We do tend to like glorify war movies, the heroics of the soldiers because of what they do, what they were forced to do, was really heroic to those of us, anyways, who don't have to do those things. But what will pretty much any soldier tell you if you ask him? The real heroes are the ones who didn't come back home. And I think maybe a lot of soldiers, they might not see the heroism in the acts that they did. They're just trying to survive.
I would agree. I don't. It was so beautifully done, dude. I don't have anything else to add to that. So
It just That line really made me think a lot.
As it should.
That was all I had for that short section there. So good to move on here if you are.
Why do you think Fiddler is feeling the way that he is?
I would think that he's probably nervous. He doesn't know what's happened or what's going to happen, even if you have maybe a little bit of an idea. All the unknown.
Well, right, but he's also very unaware of what Raraku is doing.
To the unknown, yeah.
Right. What about this bridge burners have ascended?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if it was in my section and maybe I just omitted it as they talk about like the only exception being the Tlan Imus.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought about it that way either.
Do you think that Raraku allowed the Talanimus to perform the ritual? Do you think that was maybe a gift to them?
I don't know. Could be.
I mean, it kind of sounds like they're native to Seven Cities. So is it possible that Raraku raised them or allowed them to be their infinite protector, Raraku's infinite protectors, but then somehow that got thwarted and it was left to fend for itself and it got stripped away of all of its resources and water and blah 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 and
There's a lot there, right?
yeah,
Just a lot we don't know. It's so hard to say.
right. It just makes me curious as to where this is going. But maybe maybe the bridge burners are essentially what the Tilani Mass were, if my theory is correct, right? Like maybe they are, the protectors of Araku, because they clearly have ascended. What exactly that means, I'm not quite sure, but
Yeah,
so maybe
it'll
in
be
the next chapter, Quick Ben will have a section where he's talking about and maybe kind of explaining how or the reasons why.
yeah, we'll have to read and find out.
You know,
I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I have a hard time like thinking that far ahead, and it's just I just kind of take it as it comes.
sure. Very good insight, sir. You ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
All right. Rounding the bend, rounding the bend. Mathok and his horse warriors approached Leomin of the Flails. Mathok nodded in agreement and said that he had missed Leomin. Leomin said that his shaman had fallen unconscious, and Leomin wanted to know what was going on in the Oasis. The war leader made a warding sign and explained that Raraku had awakened. Ghosts have risen, the holy desert's own memories. Leomin wondered as to who was their enemy. Mathok shook his head and said it was betrayal upon betrayal. He explains that he, Mathok, has withdrawn his warriors from the Oasis and encamped between Sha'ik and the Malazans. Chaos has claimed all else, as the battle was already lost. Leomin asked of Sha'ik. The war leader said that he had the Book of Drajana, as he was sworn to protect it. Leomin scowled at that. Korab shifted in his saddle and stared northeastward. Unusual darkness engulfed the oasis, and it seemed to swarm as if filled with living creatures. Korab shivered. Leomin asked if they were to head towards Yagatan. Mathok nodded and said that his own tribe would be the escort, leaving over 9,000 warriors at Leomin's disposal for him to command. Leomin shook his head and said that it was too late, and the battle would belong to the Dogslayers. He asked the man again, what of Sha'ik? Mathok said that the goddess still held her, and Dom's assassins still could not reach her. Leomin suspects that Dom would have realized this, and so probably planned something else. Mathok said that his heart had been broken this night. Leomin studied him for a moment and then said, until Yagatan. Mathok asked if Leomin was to ride to Sha'ik. The desert warrior said that he must. Mathok was holding back tears and then straightened in his saddle. He said that Drajana once belonged to them, to the tribes of this desert. The book's prophecies were soon sown for a much older skin. The book was in truth just history, a telling of apocalyptic battles, none of those to come. Leomin said that he knew, and to guard the book well. Mathok wheeled his horse, gestured to his warriors, and was gone. Leomin stared after them a moment. Howls shattered the night. Korab saw his commander bare his teeth as he glared into the darkness ahead. He thought to himself that it was like two beasts about to go head to head. He wondered what awaited them. Leoman snarled for his followers to get their weapons. The company then thundered forward. The closer they got to the oasis, the more muted their passage, as if the darkness was devouring all sound. The howls had not repeated, so Korab wondered if they were real at all. He wondered if the howls were nothing but an illusion to freeze all in their tracks. The vanguard entered a spoil, and suddenly bolts were being fired from riders, screams, and toppling warriors. Further back in the column, there was a clash of swords, dog slayers. Somehow, Korab found he and his horse were plunging clear of the danger. A figure darted near to him, and he raised his sword. Leoman bellowed that it was him. Leoman's horse had been killed beneath him. He reached up and got on Korab's horse. Leoman told the man to ride. So a few thoughts in this section. Mithok says that he has the Book of Dryjana, and I'm like, I just keep thinking, like, why keep this around? What's the need to keep this book if all it is just death and destruction?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a religious book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody had like the original Bible or whatever religion's original holy book, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, why do you still have that? And maybe they wouldn't be able to give you a good answer, but they'd be like, this is the word that we believe. It's priceless. You can't get rid of it.
Do you remember in that opening section of chapter 21, I think it is, where we get Febral's perspective on what he did? And he was ordered to burn all the history books and all the knowledge. Do you think that Dryjana is a book that survived that?
Oh, that could be. Be a pretty good reason not to get rid of it then. If it's like the only thing that's left.
Right.
That's a really good point.
But then they talk about the book was in truth just history, like a telling of apocalyptic battles, but none of those to come, right? Like it's prophesied, right? And so I'm just like, okay, so this was just a history book taken way too seriously. That's kind of what I'm gathering from that statement.
But it could be the only history book left from that time.
Right. So they don't, I guess I can understand where people are coming from then, because it's the only recollection that they have. And so maybe there's some truth to it, right? Like your comparison to the Bible, but no one actually knows.
Right. But if you lose that, then I mean you don't. It's not like you've got another copy you can.
The knowledge is gone, so it's almost like the knowledge is more sacred than the actual text itself.
Yeah.
No matter how one would interpret that knowledge, even though it is just death and destruction, it's still knowledge. It's still a viewpoint into the ancient world, into this cult, right?
Right.
And then my last thought is this, darkness was devouring all sound. And this is maybe the one thing that would maybe think that Gamut maybe hasn't died, is because we get these things where, if he would talk, he would sound far away. Distance, like battles and, engagements would sound distant. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what is happening, is just the darkness was deafening some sound.
I did not draw the comparison there, but I still think Gamut's probably. I think he's done. But
I think so too. But
it's an interesting thought for sure. One that I definitely didn't see.
All right. Well, that's all I had. It's up to you now, sir.
I am not yet done. Horse warriors plunged over the low wall with axes whirling in their hands. Quickben yelped and dove for cover. Kalam cursed and followed with Dom's still unconscious body. The heavy cavalry passed. Kalam looked to Quickben and asked who those bastards were. Quickben said Raraku had unleashed her ghosts. They had best lay low for a bit. Kalam asked if they were the ones singing. He can hear them in his head. Quickben said the same was true for him, and asked Kalam if he had any conversations with the Taino spirit walker recently. Kalam said no, he didn't even know what that was. Quickben explained that's what they were hearing. It was a song that belongs to the bridge burners. Kalam still didn't understand, and Quick Ben said it makes you think about cause and effect. Atano stole their tale and fashioned it into a song, but in order for the song to have any effect, the bridge burners had to die as a company. And now it has. Barring the two of them, Kalam said Fid was still alive as well. And now that he thought about it, he had mentioned something about a spirit walker in Erliton. Quick Ben said there would have had to have been direct contact, shaking hands, a kiss, something to that effect. Kalam said Fid was acting goofy. Quick Ben said whatever had happened, and to whoever, the bridge burners had now ascended. Kalam wanted to know what the hell that meant. Quick Ben didn't know either. He had never heard of a whole company ascending. There was no precedent for it. Kalam said, unless you count the Tlanimus. Quick Ben said that was an interesting thought, but in any case, Raraku's ghosts had risen to that song, risen to battle. But there's more. He swore he saw a Wiccan standard back by the Dog Slayer's trenches, and they were getting out there. Kalam started to speak, saying perhaps Tavor was taking advantage. Quick Ben cut him off, saying she didn't know anything about it. She carries a notadral sword. Maybe the mages she has with sense something. Darkness over the Oasis obscures everything. Kalam asked if he had any good news. Quick Ben said the darkness was sorcery. Remember whenever Rake arrived somewhere with his warren unveiled? The weight, the trembling ground, the overwhelming pressure? Kalam said he hoped the Son of Darkness wasn't going to be showing up. Quick Ben said he didn't think so. He was busy at the moment, but would explain that later. Kalam mentioned the howls from the hounds. He had run into them before. They were like hounds of shadow, but worse. Quick Ben didn't like the sound of that. Kalam said he only got away because he let loose a handful of Aslan demons. Quick Ben asked where he had been lately, where he had a handful of them. Kalam said he had also had some stories to tell. Quick Ben was similar with the Hounds of Darkness, the Daragoth, and wondered who broke their chains, set them free. Kalam snapped, saying that was typical. What didn't he know? Quick Ben said a few things, one of them being, what reason were the hounds even here? Kalam said as long as they steered clear of them, he didn't really care. Kalam said he misunderstood, asking what they were doing here. And Kalam groaned. Let's see, what do I got here?
Well, I feel like this maybe explains a little bit about our questions about the ascension, and it seems like Quick Ben doesn't really know either. So I'm gonna say that that's probably a read on and find out question.
It's pretty fair. Yeah, I mean, if if Quick Ben doesn't know, we're not. He seems to know an awful lot. So
Yeah.
I only had one thought on this section, and then I don't know if you had anything, but the day that I was typing this up, as I was driving home from work, I was listening to our Horse Frog podcast buddies, and they are 2 or 3 episodes into chapter 25 of Memories of Ice. They were talking about the pressure with Rake and Moonspawn as well. And they were kind of wondering if it was like a Warren thing or perhaps it had to do with Dragnipur. And they settled that probably more likely a Warren thing. But I did think it was interesting that it comes up again like a book later. And if I wasn't listening to them, this is definitely not something I would have caught.
I feel like I caught this too in one of my sections where it comes up again. I don't remember what I wrote for it, but I don't know if it's necessarily a Warren. I mean, I almost kind of feel like the pressure that is surrounding Black Coral is almost oppressive in nature. And I think that, again, maybe has to do with the Tistandes culture a little bit. I'm not quite sure. And, it kind of seems like Rake and Raraku maybe have a little bit of a similar story where there's a lot of tragedy that takes place.
Yeah, there's plenty of that.
So that's kind of like where I'm going, but yet that's like, yeah, that's super faint at the moment. I'm not quite sure what that exactly means.
Yeah, I don't either. It was just, I hadn't noticed the pressure thing, and it's not something I definitely would have been able to recall from the last book. So it was just a
Yeah.
timing thing that was
That piqued your interest.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
that's fair. I'm sure that we'll find out more about that.
I would think so.
Yeah, because it seems to be part of, pretty, not circumstantial, but imperative to the story.
I mean, it's been brought up in multiple books. I mean, there must be something to it, or it's just a consistency thing, I guess. I don't know.
It could be, but I'm sure that there's an answer eventually.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got so much lore and world building to go through yet.
true. That's true.
But yeah, I'm ready to move on if you are.
Sure thing.
Their hackles were raised as large as a steppe horse, but bulkier, made their way into the square. There was something about them that was similar to that of a hyena and a plains bear. They slowed and then halted to sniff the air. They had come to destroy, to tear life from all flesh, and to shatter all that stood in their path. This was a new world for them, but had once been old. Nothing was once as it had been, and it made the Daragoth uneasy. They came to destroy, but now they hesitated. Eyes were fixed on the one who had come at the far end of the square. Karza Orlong strode forward. His voice was low as he said that Urgal's master had ambitions. The crippled god dreamt of mastery, but understands better and wants nothing to do with the Daragoth. But he does. Both hounds stepped back, then moved to allow space between them. Karza smiled and thought that they didn't belong here. He asked them if they would let him pass. He continued on and thought that he had had his fill of strangers this night. He asked if the beast remembered the Toblakai. They had been weakened by foolish peace, by civilization, weakened that they could not even stand against the Talani Mass, nor the Forkrul Assail and Jaghut. Now they couldn't even stand before the Nathi slavers. He tells them an awakening was needed. He strode between the hounds as if he intended to accept the invitation to pass. The hounds attacked as he knew they would. Karza dropped to a crouch and leaned to his left as he brought up his massive sword. The point slid left in the path of the hound lunging to that side. It struck the chest of the beast. The chest cracked but did not shatter, and the blade's edge ripped a bloody path down along the ribs. He then exploded from his crouch to drive a shoulder into the collarbone of the beast. As the beast attempted an attack on the back of Karza's neck, the collision caused the hound's gouged ribs to splinter. The other hound's jaw closed around Karza's right leg, just below the knee. He was then lifted from the ground and then thrown to one side. Though his jaws did not loosen, the movement threw his massive stone sword from his hands. While the second hound continued on the leg, the first hound staggered away with blood spilling out beneath it. Karza made no attempt to free his leg, but rather got up on his free one and lunged into the hound. Arms wrapped around the shoulders of the hound, the Teblor lifted the hound, and the hound released Karza's leg and was driven back down onto the floor. The floor cracked in an explosion of dust. The Teblor sank to his knees and closed both hands around the hound's throat. A snarling frenzy greeted him, teeth ripped into his forearms, chewing chunks of skin and flesh. Karza released one hand and subdued the beast's mouth. Thrashing legs scored Karza's legs, but the Teblor kept pushing, harder and harder, his other hand joining in the effort. The kicks went wild in panic. Karza felt and heard a grinding pop. Then the beast's head cracked against the floor. A strange keening sound came from out of its throat. The warrior pulled his right hand back, made it into a fist, and drove it into the animal's throat. The leg spasmed and then went limp. With a roar, Karza stood upright, dragging the hound by the neck, then hammered it down once more. A snap was heard, and saliva and blood sprayed everywhere. He straightened and swung his gaze to where the other hound had been. He only saw a trail of blood. Karza staggered over to his sword and followed the blood path.
Did he King Kong this hound like King Kong did the T-Rex?
Powerbombed him is kind of what I imagined.
Well, just like ripped its face off, like ripped its jaw apart, and then punched it in the throat. I had kind of a hard time understanding that part, and I wasn't sure if that was the case.
I think he just pushed the head into the ground until his skull broke. Is kind of what I got, and then he like throat punches him.
Okay.
But yeah, that first part where he lifts the hound and then the hound released his leg and then he was driven back down on the floor. I imagine this as, a power bomb or some kind of wrestling move, where you just like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was fucking badass. And then again, an epic throat punch, like holy shit, like that was really fucking cool to see. The last thought that I had was just he carves the stagger over his sword and followed the blood path, and just this whole scene was just fucking awesome. All in defiance to his patron god. I just absolutely loved it. I don't really think that Karza saying that the crippled god dreamt of mastery but understands better and wants nothing to do with the Daragoth. It almost kind of makes it seem like the crippled god himself was even scared of the Daragoth. But Karza's like, fuck, let me show you, bitch. And then just takes him on.
Ours is just kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Predator. Like,
on drugs. Yeah.
if it bleeds, I can kill it, or whatever the hell the line is.
I was not expecting this confrontation.
No, I can't say I was either. And it was like, yeah, it was just some heavyweights just going at it.
Exactly. That was all that I had. I'm good. It was a very action-packed scene. I don't really know if I have much more to say about it.
All right, we'll keep going then. Kalam and Quickben rose from behind the wall and stared in silence at what the giant warrior had done. Shadows began dancing and swarming in the darkness, gathering at the corpse of the Daragoth. I think there's something about Cape Moths gathering at the corpse, so I screwed that up. But then running away again as if they were terrified. Kalam rolled his shoulders and with his knife in his hands approached the hound. They looked at the body. Kalam told Quickben they should drop off Dom and get the hell out of Dodge. Quickben said that was a great idea. Kalam said he had just thought of it, and Quickben congratulated him. Kalam said he was more than a pretty face. They ignored all the shadows pouring out of the hemorrhaging, shattered warren of Corald Emerlon. I mean, I guess what else do? You just watch Karsa. You just watch this giant, manhandle two hounds of darkness. Probably thinking oh, this is a guy that I probably don't really want to mess with. So yeah, let's just get out of here.
Yeah. The thing that I find interesting is both of them ignore the shadows pouring out of the hemorrhaging shattered warren of Corald Emerlon. That's the hound, or that's the warren of shadow. But these are hounds of darkness. Am I misconstruing that, or is that something else?
I don't know.
Because wouldn't that be Corald Ghislaine? I don't know. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that because that's very strange to me.
So the shadows were coming out of the warren of dark, is what you're saying?
No. The shadows are coming out of the correct warren. The hounds, though, I'm assuming that this insinuates that the shadows are pouring out of the hound.
I guess, yeah, we'll have to see where that goes. My other thought here, just this kind of banter between Quickben and Kalam, I just appreciate, in a moment where you're probably pretty horrified at what you just watched, you can still find some humor to be like, yeah, I just thought of this great plan. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, but I mean, think about how relieved Kalam especially probably is to see that both of what he had faced are now, one is injured severely, and the other one is dead.
Yeah, and the Aslan demons really didn't slow him down at all.
They did not fare well.
No, there was no significant damage done, I don't think.
No, but that was my only thought, is I just think it's weird that shadows are pouring out of something I associate with the Warren of Darkness.
That would be weird.
But yeah, I'm ready to move on if you are.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Haborik thought the word friend as a four-legged demon jumped into his path. Haborik said that if they had met, he would have remembered. Grey Farog said that this was helpful, and he was brother to Lorik. He lies in a clearing to Haborik's left. Haborik asked the demon to take him to the High Mage, and Grey Frog did not move, but asked, friend? Boric said more or less, as they share certain flaws. Grey Frog shrugged and said with certain reservations, then said to follow. Boric set off into the petrified forest after the demon, his smile growing larger as he went on. Grey Frog said a priest with the hands of a tiger, sometimes. Other times, human hands glowing green, impressed. Those tattoos were fine indeed. He says he would have trouble tearing out the destriant's throat, even if he was hungry, which he always was. Thoughtful was the night at hand. Ghosts, assassins, warrens, and silent battles. He asked if anyone in the world sleeps. They stumbled into the small clearing. Loric's armor was stained with dried blood, but he looked well enough. He was sitting on the dusty ground with the deck of dragons in front of him. Boric sat down opposite him and stated that he didn't know Loric played with the deck. Loric replied that he never played, and states that a master has come to the deck, and that master just sanctioned the House of Chains. Boric's eyes widened and then narrowed, and then slowly nodded. Let the gods rail. He or she had to do just that. Loric said that the crippled god is now bound, just as every other god. Boric said that in the game, yes, after so long outside of it. He wonders if the crippled god would come to regret this game. Loric explains that he seeks the fragment of Corald Amerlane and is poised to strike, though his chances are less now than they were at sunset. Boric asks how so, and Loric explains that Bidethal is dead, killed by the Tobokai. Boric said that that was not good. Boric said he believes that Karza has become the knight in the House of Chains. Boric said that was a damn mistake because Karza would never kneel to anyone. Loric said that he has already displayed that this night, to the possible ruination of them all. At the same time, though, Karza may be their only hope. Loric opened his eyes and looked at Boric and explained that 2 hounds of darkness arrived a bit ago. He said he could feel their presence intermittently, but could get no closer. Otatero and the darkness that shrouds them. Boric asked why Karza would step into their path, but answered his own question because Karza is Karza. Loric explains that he thinks the Tobokai already has, and he believes only one Daragoth remains. He continues on to say that Karza now pursues it. Boric asked what brought the hounds here. Loric explained that the cards didn't reveal that, but maybe because the answer was yet to be decided. Boric said he was relieved to hear that some things remain so. Loric tells Ghost Hands to take fellows in, accompanied with Grey Frog, and leave this place. Boric asks what of Loric. The High Mage said that he must go to Sha'ik. He tells Ghost Hands to say nothing as he knows that he and Sha'ik were close once, but that mortal child is no more, as the goddess is able to devour her soul. Once that is done, there will be no return. When he goes to Sha'ik, he won't be going to her, he'll be going to the goddess. Boric asked why. Was he really true to the apocalypse of chaos and destruction? Loric said he had something else in mind, but wanted to speak to the goddess before she took Sha'ik's soul. Boric looked at the High Mage and tried hard to decipher what Loric wanted from the Whirlwind Goddess. Loric, after a time, said there were 2 Felazans, and told Boric to save the one he could. Boric said that one day he would discover who Loric really is. The High Mage smiled and said that he would find the simple truth. He was the son who lives without hope of ever matching his father's stride. That in time would explain all Boric needed to know of him. He tells Boric to go and guard Felazan Younger well.
I think that's ominous.
It definitely feels that way. But at the same time, it kind of feels like at this point in the chapter, things are kind of like coming to like be tied up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Things are kind of like the climax is done, things are descending nicely. Just part where Boric said that they share certain flaws, and Grey Frog shrugged and said with certain reservations. And I kind of wonder if Boric and Loric are sharing certain flaws, or if it's Boric and Grey Frog. And I kind of wondered what all that was about.
I don't know that I have any insight onto that.
I mean, Grey Frog seems to agree, but with some stipulations, like some differences.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then this part where, Lorik is talking about the Hounds of Darkness and how he could feel their presence kind of like in and out, but didn't want to get or couldn't get closer. And then he says, Otatero and the darkness that shrouds them. And I'm kind of wondering why these two things would be stated together. Lorik is elder, so he should be able to thwart Otatero. Like, are Otatero and darkness a thing? Are they related in some way, shape, or form?
Again, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that are tying up, but then there's also things that are like, we've gotten a lot into kind of like the background of Otatero and what it does just within the last 5 chapters that we haven't heard before. It was always just an assumption that it could thwart human sorcery. But now we're getting kind of more backstory about it, which then just begs more questions.
There's always more questions, man.
Yeah. I guess my last thought is when they're talking about the goddess taking Sha'ik's soul, and Haborik looks at Lorik trying to decipher what he wanted from the whirlwind goddess. And I mean, I wonder what else he would have in mind. Like, peace? How do you quench a rageful goddess? Maybe you give her what she wants, right? What do you think that could be?
Even if you give it to her, is that enough? Do you think that's just she's just going to suddenly settle down? Or do you think, like, what if she wants to take it? She doesn't want it given to her.
I mean, what is Sha'ik's soul really going to do for the whirlwind outside of maybe give it a little bit more power?
Yeah,
You
I don't
know?
know.
I mean, if you take powerful souls, right, then you have more power. Kind of what we got with Rake's sword and Memories of Ice. That like little explanation.
Yeah.
Again, more ominous things, but those were the immediate thoughts that I had about that section.
I've got one thing I would add. Lorik says that there were 2 Felisons, and that makes me really nervous because I was pretty adamant that I thought Felison Younger was going to die in this chapter, and it didn't happen, and I was pretty surprised by that. So
But I mean, yeah.
he tells her to save the one he can, and I don't really know, but dude, I don't know.
I don't know. Like I said, like I predicted, I think that Sha'ik will die. I think she does not make it past this book. And I think this is kind of alluding or foreshadowing that moment.
Yeah, it could be.
So,
But that line just, I mean, it definitely like gives me an eerie feeling.
yeah,
And maybe it's just like you said, maybe it's that foreshadowing.
yeah.
Ready for me to take my last section here?
Do it, man.
All right. The ghosts pivoted and faced Karsa as he strode past. They saluted him, and he thought at least these ones weren't in chains. The trail of blood he followed led him into a maze of ruins. He was close. He could smell the hound, and it was close. Likely cornered, he suspected. Or maybe, he thought, it was more likely it had picked a spot for an ambush. If only the slow patter of blood hadn't given away its hiding place. Karsa kept his eyes away from where the hound hid, keeping his steps uneven with pain and hesitation, though not all of it was an act. The blood on his sword started to dry, and may betray his grip since it was sticky. Shadows tore at the darkness as if the 2 elemental forces were at war with one another. Karsa realized dawn was approaching. The hound charged. Karsa leapt, twisting in midair and slashing an arc in his wake. He caught a piece of the hound, but its momentum had already carried it past. As it landed, it rolled over, and Karsa scrambled to his feet. To meet it. The hound prepared to charge again, but a horse burst through, surprising both Karsa and the hound. It was galloping blindly and made evident by its collision with the hound. There were 2 riders on the horse that were thrown from it. The impact from the horse put the hound under its stamping hooves. Yet the horse remained on its feet, while the hound struggled to get back to its feet. Karsa snarled, drove forward, and put the sword through its neck. It shrieked back at Karsa. He pulled away, and with him his sword. Blood poured from the wound onto the street. A figure came from the shadows with a spiked ball and a flail and connected with the hound's head, and again a second time. Karsa and Leoman took another dozen shots to finish the hound off for good. Korab emerged with a broken sword in hand. Karsa wiped blood and guts from his sword and told Leoman he didn't need his help. Leoman said that was true, but he needed Karsa's. Karsa just still going beast mode, and really the only thought I have here is just this: these hounds of darkness are pretty tough. I mean, first it gets crashed into by a horse. Well, not even first. I mean, this is kind of the second encounter. It's already wounded, but
Right.
takes a body shot from a horse, gets trampled to some extent, and then Karsa stabs it in the neck, and it's still not dead. Then it gets smacked in the face with a flail twice, and then it takes another dozen stabs, or a combination of stabs, and hits with a flail before it's dead. It didn't go down. Didn't go down quick.
No, a nice conclusion though. Like the Daragoth, as far as these two are dead. So maybe the other 5 word of it and like go after Karza or something like that.
But when they were
Maybe.
released, didn't Troll? How many did he let out? Was it all of them, or was it just the 2?
Just 2.
And the other ones are still on like stone or whatever.
Who knows? I don't know where the other ones are.
Good point.
We can only assume based on these 2.
Since they came out of stone.
Right. Stone is stone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I didn't know if we were gonna get the conclusion of the hound that got away, but we did. Again, wrapping things up, kind of tying that knot.
Yeah.
A lot of things got tied up and put to an end in this chapter.
Corvolodam is still tied up.
Yep. And we'll see that conclusion too.
Well,
so yeah, we ready to take her home?
I think so.
All right. Pearl staggered from the trench, climbing over corpses. Since his assassination of Hanaris, things had gone downhill. Countless guards and ghosts whose weapons were anything but illusionary. His head still ached from Lestara's kiss. Inside his head, he cursed the woman. He'd been cut and slashed all through the camp, and now stumbled half-blind towards the ruins. Darkness was being torn apart from all sides. Corralled Emerlane was opening like death's own flower, with the Oasis as its dark heart. Beneath the sorcerous pressure of that manifestation, it was all he could do to walk down the trail. As long as Lestara stayed put, they could well salvage something out of all of this. He came to an edge and stopped, studying the pit where he had left her. She was either staying low or she had left. He got closer. He thought to himself that he despised nights like these, as nothing ever goes right. Something hard struck him upside the head. Stunned, he fell to the ground. A voice rumbled above him. That was from Malaz City. Even so, you still owe me one. Pearl mumbled that after Hanaris, it was he, the person hitting Pearl, that owed him one. The voice said, her? Not worth counting. Something thumped heavily next to Pearl and then groaned. The claw sighed and said, all right, I owe you one. He told Pearl to make more noises as Pearl's lass over yonder was bound to look his direction. Pearl listened as 2 sets of feet walked away. Pearl thought that the wizard was in no mood to talk, at least to Pearl. Beside him, the trust shape began to groan again. Despite himself, Pearl smiled. To the east, the sky paled. The night was over.
Boom.
Yep, there it is. The end of chapter 25. The head still ached from Lestara's kiss. For some reason, I took this more literal than I did initially. But like I had said, why do I not remember this? Was this how he awoke from being conked over the head? But the kiss was him getting hit over the head by Lestara in the previous chapter.
Right.
Corralled Emerlane's was opening like death's own flower, with the Oasis at its dark heart. And then again, I say, remember in Coral when Rig took control of it, it's now called Black Coral or something like that. I wonder if this is kind of the same thing or similar, and think that it's because Dark and Shadow are linked, that these 2 places are now 2.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was kind of having similar thoughts earlier when I brought up Black Coral. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't know if that was the same thing. If the trains of thought were aligned there or not, or if it was something else. I don't remember exactly, but
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. Like, I'm excited for when I can read Forge of Darkness and Path to Light. Like, I feel like a lot of these things are going to be maybe revealed or expanded upon. I'm really enjoying the light, dark, shadow stuff. While I understand its concept, it's still crazy how much of a puzzle it is.
yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be a good number of years before we get to those books. So
Yeah. The voice rumbled above Pearl. It's Kalam and Quick Ben, but Quick Ben doesn't say anything. And that's at first I was really confused. I'm like, what wizard was in no mood to talk to Pearl? But then when I realized it was Kalam and Quick Ben have been together. So, it was weird that their names weren't given here. So that's who that is.
it took me. I struggled to figure it out too, but then I realized it had to be them.
Right. And then when Kalam says that was from Malaz City, is because Pearl and Kalam's interaction at the end of Dead House Gates, where Pearl threw Kalam into Malaz Harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy again, just the call out to other books. And then, of course, the trust shape is Kalam delivering Dom to Pearl.
Got some dead weight.
It's interesting. It kind of seems like Lucine still wants Dom's head, and Dom realized that Lucine still wants his head, so he was going to betray the whirlwind to get back in her good graces.
What do you think?
Even though he's the master of the talons.
Where do you think that would if you were to have succeeded in that? Where do you think that would have went?
I don't know. I don't think that Lucine would be able to trust him, just like the people in the Oasis didn't trust him.
That's fair.
Because he's untrustworthy. Where do you think the ending of this book is going to take us, dude?
Dude, I don't. I don't know. I feel like there's a long ways to go. I feel like how can we only have one chapter left?
Right. And I would imagine that we're going to get whatever confrontation is going down with the whirlwind. We're going to get Tavor and Sha'ik's confrontation, as well as things are going to wind down, right? Like it's going to get set up for the next phase.
I'm looking forward to digging into it.
Did you not start in my absence tonight?
No.
Oh, why not?
I figured I'd wait.
Oh, well, that was kind of you.
I'm excited to put this book down and grab a new one.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't.
Nice. Well, sweet. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight because I'm going to go watch the rest of the Vikings game because they're getting their ass kicked.
Are they?
Yeah, it's 17-6 right now.
Hell.
Like halfway through the third quarter. So we'll see what happens. But
well, I've got.
I might read a little bit after that.
I've got DJ Moore on my fantasy team, and the Vikings defense, and I'm down by about 11 points in my game. I don't think I'll be winning that one. So.
No, probably not. Because from what I heard, they gave up a 75-yard touchdown pass. So.
Oh, great. Well, it'll probably be another long year, huh?
Yep. Rebuilding year. Even though we have great players. But we'll see what happens. It's just the first game.
Yeah, you can't win the Super Bowl one game into the year, so.
Nope. Well, awesome. Awesome episode, sir. I'm excited to see where this goes. And I guess we'll talk soon.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Good episode, good talk. Hard to believe we're at the end of another book here.
I know. It's crazy. This journey is so awesome. Like, would I like to read them faster? For sure. But I feel like I wouldn't get as much out of it if I read it in just one go.
100% agree.
So.
And I'm glad I get to do it with you.
Yeah, me as well. This is amazing. I'm always excited when we get to talk about our origin story, like we did with the Nostalgic Dragon last weekend.
Yeah, that was fun.
All right, dude. Well, enjoy your night, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, buddy. Take care.
Later, dude.
Bye.
Boy.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest.